Good afternoon. Open this meeting November 18, 2015, and can we have a roll call, please?
Mayor Wood. Here. Deputy Mayor Lowry.
Here.
Councilmember Fellick. Councilmember Kern.
Here.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Okay, the City Council meeting closed session to discuss item 1 on the closed session agenda, conference with the labor negotiator involving the Oceanside Police Management Association. Item 2, conference with real property negotiator involving the city-owned parcels along the Strand. Under negotiations are price and terms for the use of the property. Negotiating parties are City of Oceanside and Main Street Organization. Item 3, conference with legal counsel on existing litigation in the matter of Peter Forbes versus the City of Oceanside.
Thank you. For the back row. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We'll get started. And roll call, please.
Mayor Wood.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Lowry.
Here.
Councilmember Fellick.
Here.
Councilmember Kern.
Here.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Here.
Thank you. Go ahead and start with the consent calendar, please.
Yes, consent calendar items 4
Linda. Linda.
Consent calendar items 4 through 15.
Thank you very much.
Move approval.
I'd like to pull item 8.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item 8 being pulled, imagine for that, the remainder.
Yes.
Thank you. Please vote.
Thank you.
Motion approved 5-0.
And we get a moment, please, have Deputy Mayor address 8.
Yes. Item number 8 is the adoption of a resolution accepting $999,000. So in your agenda, the last $999 is not included. It's $999,000 in grant funds from the California Department of Transportation, awarded to the city for the Mission Avenue Railroad crossing safety improvements, approval to appropriate the grant funds to the engineering division, approval of budget appropriation in the amount of $80,000 from Transnet Fund, account 212.3010, to the Mainline Railroad Crossing Safety Improvement Project, account to provide sufficient funding for the completion of the design phase of the project, and authorization for the city engineer to execute all associated grant documents.
Deputy Mayor.
Okay. Scott, I have a few questions about this, maybe 2 questions. Can you tell me a little bit about this? Because I've been getting emails from people wanting to know about train noise and quiet zones and all that. So how does this fit into that picture?
Honorable Mayor, council members, Scott Smith, City Engineer, Deputy Mayor Lowry. In order to respond to your question, the grant money is to provide resources to construct supplemental safety improvements for the Mission Avenue crossing, which is a separate item from the quiet zone. Those are 2 separate issues. Once supplemental safety measures have been installed on all 5 crossings, then you can apply to the FRA to establish a quiet zone, but they're 2 separate items.
This is just going to focus on the Mission Avenue crossing.
That is correct.
And will there be any reduction in noise or anything like that with this project?
No, in order to establish a quiet zone, we'd have to have at least two crossings built or addressed. The safety measures have to be improved. The minimum size is I believe it's a half mile, and so you couldn't really realize it if the crossings are too close together. But we need 2 crossings at a minimum. But as I said before, the process, the steps to do it is to first put in the additional safety measures, and that's separate, and then once those are in, then we can apply.
Okay, so this is a grant that we received from Caltrans.
That is correct. Through Section 130 funding, as you had mentioned, it only addresses Mission Avenue. City staff is working with Sandex staff right now to proceed or to investigate a commercial paper loan against our Transnet funds over a 5-year period. We haven't finished those negotiations, but we're looking to fund the rest of the project through that means. At the same time, I'm in negotiations with Sandex staff regarding the Surfrider crossing, because they have a bigger project, Eastbrook to Shell project, where they have to touch that crossing. And they have improvements planned, but they may come after our improvements. So we're trying to negotiate if there's a reimbursement that we can receive on that.
So any idea of a timeline for the Mission Avenue?
I believe the information we sent out was we're hoping to get into construction, I thought it was the end of next year or the beginning of the following, so right in that time frame.
Okay, end of 2016, approximately. Okay, that's all I have. I move approval, so thank you.
Thank you. I'll second it.
Thank you.
Vote in a second.
I'll second, but I have one question.
Go ahead.
If I remember correctly, some of those improvements, the developer was going to pay for part of the crossing improvements. Is that still, maybe I'm misremembering, but I thought there was something about the development down there is paying for some of those improvements too.
Councilmember Kern, you do remember correctly. They were going to be, one particular development was going to be help contributing to the pedestrian fencing to help channelize the pedestrians.
Now, is that included in the cost, or is that something separate than this?
What we'll probably end up doing is negotiating with the developer to provide the cash equivalent and then apply it to the rest, because some of those improvements will be covered through this grant, but yet not everything will be covered by this grant.
So his contribution we can actually transfer to another crossing?
We could if he's willing to do that. So we would have to negotiate that. Okay. We're just really pleased, and we're happy to come before council with this almost $1 million to help with something that we know that you have wanted, but at the same time have struggled with the way we're going to fund it.
Thank you.
Real quick on my behalf, number one, I'm excited about getting the $1 million for a transportation corridor like this. We realize to have 5 intersections across the line, and I was concerned that we would do the one at Mission Avenue first because it's the busiest pedestrian and vehicle, but we have to have at least 2 of them to have a quiet zone. And I think Surfrider would be the next one. I know you and staff have been working on every intersection, but I want to have a priority with the money and the secondary one to get this thing moving as quick as possible, because it's about the tourism, the noise and the safety of the pedestrians across those roads. I know we have to spend money on those, but you know, we'll have a chance with this now to do 2 intersections fairly quick and maybe get this thing going to get a quiet zone. Every city along the coast is trying to get them also, and this really helps us a lot. Thank you. Anything else, Miss City Manager? Thank you. Jack?
Yes, thank you. I thought I heard you say you have to have these improvements done to all 5 intersections along the corridor before you can implement the quiet zone.
Councilmember Feller, you can do 2 crossings. It's our plan right now in the negotiation we're having regarding the funding of this is to try to have all 5 done at the same time. It is a safety issue. There is some cost savings realized when we can award a bigger project and get it done rather than have to go through a possible loan twice. So that would be most likely going to be our recommendation to council, but until we have that information available, we won't be able to tell you certainly.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. We have a motion and a second. Let's go ahead and vote.
Motion approved, 5-0.
After 6 o'clock. I would like to take something out of order. I'd like to get Cox come forward and address the city and us on some issues and changes. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor and council members. Appreciate the opportunity to be here to let you know, give you an update about our Cox digital transition that's happening right now. So we've been operating in the county for over 50 years, and in that time, technology will update as it always does, right? And so we're in the midst of an all-digital transition. So what that means is that we're going to be we're going to be removing the analog broadcast as part of our system, right? And so that affects some of the subscribers who are residents who have the coax cable that they would take straight from the wall and plug it into their television. In the future, once the analog broadcasts are switched off, you would need to be able to convert that signal, so you'll need a mini box to do that. Part of the reason why we're doing this is because it's part of the continuing investment and innovation that the company has. By reclaiming the analog, we'll get 40% of the bandwidth back. That's a huge investment, and what that's going to do for the customers is going to give you more speed. You're going to get better content. Whereas before you had an analog connection, no box, you'll have a mini box, and you'll actually have a guide that you'll be able to use. You have more functionality with your system. So it's kind of part and parcel with the expansion of some of the other investments with Wi-Fi throughout the country, 400,000 hotspots for those internet customers of Cox. They can utilize that across the country. And then just today they announced speeds of up to 300 megabytes for our highest tier, and that's available right now today. Eventually our platform will get us to 1 gig, which is incredible speeds. But again, part of that reclamation is getting back that bandwidth. So what you have in front of you is some of the things that there's some literature that we're making sure all of our customers have the awareness of. And I'm just going to throw out a number there for those who are maybe viewing at home or listening later. If you're interested in knowing kind of what the impact is for you at home and whether or not you're going to be able to avail yourself of boxes that will be extended to you for a period of time free of charge, please call us at 866-961-0416. Again, 866-961-0416. We also have a website as well, cox.com/go-all-digital with more information there. But really, this is it's an exciting time. New speeds. We're going to make sure that everybody's taken care of. And please contact us if you have any questions.
Thank you. Before you leave, Esther?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And thank you, Mr. White, for coming to the council today to address our residents about this change. And we'd seen this coming to go all digital. And so when I saw the notice about, December 15th, that'll be all digital?
That'll be the first, what we're calling peel back. And
Yes.
So for those customers who have that analog connection, there'll be a slate on that channel. Their channels go in segments, and if they're tuning into a specific channel, there'll be a slate, and it will actually read, and this might be hard to say, but Cox is going all digital, contact this phone number or this web address. Oh, okay, I'll hand it off.
And while
to,
he's doing
okay,
that,
while I'm doing that,
so what you're offering is a free mini box
yes.
for a year.
Yes, at least one mini box for at least a year. But I highly recommend that you give us a call, because based on the characteristics of the customer, there may be additional periods or boxes involved for them.
Okay, and it's a small box. You call it a mini box.
Oh, we
It's a
call it a
small
mini box. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just so you can visualize it. It's probably about the size of an Apple TV. So it's 4 inches by 4 inches by 1.5 inches thick. It's very small. It's inconspicuous. But what it will do for the customer, where they didn't have a guide or anything before, they'll have the guide now. Comes with the remote, and it will help them have a better picture quality as well.
Okay, and then after that year, you're anticipating $2.99.
There'll be a nominal
year,
charge.
a month.
Yeah, of $2.99 a month. You're exactly right.
Okay, and again, that number to call is
866-961-0416.
Thank
We'll be
you,
happy to help you.
Thank you, Mr. White, for coming to council.
Thank you, Councilmember.
Jeff?
Thank you. How does this affect KOCT? I get that on a whole different channel,
18 and 19.
18 and 19 for our local users? How does?
Right, so you're referring to the PEG channels, the public education and government channels. So those will remain the same. So the customer is going to turn into the same channel number, and they will be able to see it right there on their television. There's no impact.
Okay, I was a little concerned. This sounds almost as cheap as our water rate increase. Thank you.
I wouldn't care to speculate on that, but
Well, I want to thank you also for coming, because a lot of citizens in Oceanside lost that ability when you switched over. And certainly now you have a change, a little bit of fee, and it's going to be necessary. They can watch the council meeting. I'm sure that's their priority, and some other things. Thank you very much for coming here.
great.
Appreciate
Thank you so
it.
much. Thanks.
Thank you.
And with that, I want to do item 26. 26. I see the attorney.
Thank you. Item 26 is the adoption of an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Oceanside, amending Chapter 20 of the Oceanside City Code by adding Article 6, responsible alcohol beverage sales and service training.
Thank you. Council, Ms. Sanchez?
Move adoption?
Uh,
No public.
Second? That, no conversation, we'll go, please vote.
Motion approved, 5-0.
Thank you, I'm sorry. I guess we're going to have to go to council reports.
Mayor Wood.
Thank you very much. Busy time of the year between Thanksgiving and Christmas and all the other things, but I want to mention that I would like to close this council meeting in memory of all those victims from Paris. It was terrible. We all watched it, but I'd say my solidarity and support for them in Paris for what's gone on. Other than that, in November 6th, I had a 240th birthday for the Marine Corps. Certainly proud of them. On the 7th, I was a model at Brother Benno's fashion show. Heritage Park had their chili cook-off in November. Kick-off the American Legion Toys for Tots on November 8th. Annual motorcycle ride and music festival, November 11th, Veterans Day, and we had a beautiful event at Vance. And we had a ribbon cutting for the new hearing center here at USA, and that's a few of the things I went to, and I enjoyed them. That's all I have.
Deputy Mayor Lowry.
Well, it was a busy past week. I was honored to speak to two groups on Veterans Day. One was at the Fairwinds Ivy Ranch community, and they had about 65 veterans or their surviving spouses present, which was pretty impressive. And I also spoke at the Friendly Church of God in Christ, which is right up here in Oceanside, pretty close to Loma Alta Mission Park neighborhood. Also, Police Chief McCoy was there, so we both got to speak and tell the people in attendance about what the City of Oceanside's doing to help our veterans and our homeless veterans as well. I also attended the Bike Oceanside bicycle mixer at Bagby's last week. That was a pretty fun event. There were a lot of people there who ride bikes all over town, and I guess I don't see them, so I got to meet a lot of new people. Also, I went to the Coffee with a Cop first 1 year anniversary, which was at the Breakfast Club Diner right over here on Coast Highway, and that was pretty nice. It was a cold morning, so it was a good time to wake up and get a cup of joe. I also, this Saturday, I'm attending the Vista Community Clinic Gala. This is their biggest event of the year, and it's in search of community support and funding for Project Reach in Oceanside, and there are other programs that they have that are ongoing. So I'm looking forward to that event, and I'll get to wear a suit somewhere besides here at the City Council meeting, so that'll be fun. And that's it for now.
Councilmember Feller.
At galas, you have to wear tuxes, so, okay. I visited Genentech on the 6th. They had a kind of a get-to-know Genentech day, and I was there for the first groundbreaking in 2001, so it was really a good refresher, and to know that they're trying to double their output. So that means Rick Brown was there, Michelle was there. We got to see an awful lot of great things going on, but the most important thing is probably anywhere between 200 to 300 more jobs, and an awful lot of jobs for construction of the addition. So they've got literally 600 or 700 on the site right now, and probably going to get it to 8 to 9 during the construction, and then so there are jobs to be looked at up there. I went to Ivy Ranch Park's open house and exposition last Friday or Saturday, and they've got a stable full of horses, and they have able-bodied and disabled riding there, and it's really a terrific place for anybody to go learn how to ride a horse, but especially those disabled that are really calm down when they get on these horses. They've got a way of putting wheelchair bound on the horse with a lift, and it's a great place. To come, we have on Saturday morning, I know there's competing interests here, but there's Oceanside Women's Club breakfast at Vance from 7 o'clock till noon. That's their big fundraiser. They're still trying to get out from under the cost of a pipe break in their facility and reflooring. And both El Camino and Oceanside have home games in the playoffs, CIF playoffs, this Friday night, and should be, if they each win, they'll be playing again in the playoffs. So if you're a football fan, come on out. Last thing is, for everybody, the turkey trots a week from tomorrow morning. Get out and move your feet before you eat. That's the saying, and has been for 10 years. They're expecting about 10,000 people, and I think I'm going to do it for the 10th time, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to be pretty close to last. I'll let you win this year, Esther. So, and most of all, to all our families, happy Thanksgiving. That's it.
Councilmember Kern.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Just a couple things. The idea, I was actually a guest lecturer at Maricosta College government class talking about government and their interaction with lobbyists. So I was there with the state lobbyists for California Edison, Southern California Edison, and what the interaction is between lobbyists and government. It was an interesting class. That's the idea. Some interesting questions. But I spent about an hour and a half talking to the students there about how that all comes together. And the same day that I was at the County Veteran of the Year celebration down in Mission Valley at the Scottish Rite Temple. Probably 400 people in attendance. The idea that they named the County Veteran of the Year and the Association of the Year. Unfortunately, our nominee did not win this year, but I was down there with Jim Jones and at a table, so it was great. The Brother Benno's fashion show, I was actually the grandparent of two of the models. And there was one, my 2-year-old granddaughter, she really ate that stuff up. I thought she would freeze, but she really enjoyed walking that runway.
Oh,
So-
yeah. Good luck for
Yeah.
your future.
Yeah. And then I actually, as far as Veterans Day goes, I went and made actually went and talked to the Walker AME Church on Laurel Street. And the focus was two local veterans. One was Oscar Culp, who was a Mumford Point Marine, and they had some of the Mumford Point Marines there, and we talked a little about Oscar and his interaction with the community and what he did after he got out of the service, and so that was really important. And then the other one was Bob Maxwell, for which we've named the airport after Bob, who was one of the original Tuskegee Airmen, and we talked about Bob, but it wasn't about their contributions as military people. It was about their contributions to the city of Oceanside after they left the service and how important they were to the city. So that's why, we talk about naming the airport for Bob and honoring Oscar, it was their work beyond their military service, even though their military service was exemplary. And also on Saturday morning at the Pacific Youth Center on Camp Pendleton, Congressman Issa and General Bandit will have their annual pancake breakfast. The price of admission is one unwrapped toy for the Toys for Tots program. I think Congressman Issa has done this ever since he's been elected, so it's probably about 14, 15 years now that he's done that. So if you want to do that, do that. But I know, this is the time of year that we're all trying to raise money for different organizations, so unfortunately, we have to go eat at different places, but I'm willing to make that sacrifice. So, thank you.
Councilmember Sanchez.
No report.
Great.
Thank you. Item 21, please.
Thank you. The council met in closed session to discuss item 1 on the closed session agenda, labor negotiations involving the Oceanside Police Management Association. There's no action to report on that item. Item 2A, conference with real property negotiator involving the city-owned property along the Strand, identified on page 2 of the agenda. Negotiating parties are the city of Oceanside and Main Street. Oceanside, under negotiations, are price and terms for the use of the real property. Again, no action to report on that item. Item 3A, conference with legal counsel on existing workers' comp litigation involving Peter Forbes versus City of Oceanside. That matter was discussed, direction provided, but there's no action to report yet.
Thank you. I'm afraid I looked at the calendar, and we're going to have time-certain items at 6 o'clock, so I'm going to have to adjourn this for a break until 6 o'clock. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. Otherwise, I will have my aide explain things, and we'll start off. Go ahead, Debbie.
Please stand for the invocation and Pledge of Allegiance. Tonight's invocation will be delivered by Brother Chris Best from Mission San Luis Rey.
Creator of all life, today we gather together in this room and we check at the door our weaknesses and our shortcomings, our anger and our bitterness, our jealousy and our rivalry, our brokenness and despair. We come before you now, Creator. We take the risk that you will love and not reject us. We ask for the gifts of patience, trust, and courage to work for peace and justice, and for the good of all on this, your earth, our common home. Amen.
Tonight's Pledge of Allegiance will be led by youth members of the San Luis Rey Band of Mission Indians, Max Moran Jr. and Trent Moran.
Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You can be seated. Thank you. Applause for these
Okay,
young
and
lads.
if the boys will stay there, we have our proclamation for National American Indian Heritage Month. I'd like to call forward additional members of the San Luis Rey Band of Mission Indians. Mel Vernon, Captain. Max Moran, Sr. Roberta Estrada. Richard Estrada. Diana Caudell. Angie Flores. And Clara Guy. Are there any other members that would like to come forward? Okay, proclamation in honor of National American Heritage Month, American Indian Heritage Month, November 2015. Whereas Native American Awareness Week began in 1976 and recognition was expanded by Congress and approved by President George Bush in August 1990, designating the month of November as National American Indian Heritage Month, and whereas National American Indian Heritage Month promotes awareness of and appreciation for the history and culture of American Indians, and whereas the first to live on this land, Native Americans and their traditions and values inspired and continue to inspire the ideals of self-governance and determination that are the framework of our nation. And whereas during this month we celebrate our commitment to respect and preserve the rich Native American traditions, and whereas we honor Native Americans by reaffirming our responsibility to ensure each generation is defined by a greater sense of opportunity than the last, and by endeavoring to shape a future in which every citizen has the chance to build a life worthy of their hopes and dreams. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Jim Wood, Mayor of the City of Oceanside, California, do hereby proclaim November 2015 as National American Indian Heritage Month and encourage our community to recognize and honor our rich Native American culture. Issued this 18th day of November 2015.
Jim, don't go away. We'd like to gift you with a abalone shell and sage, and you can burn that when you like and kind of chase those bad spirits away. Yeah. Thank you. All right, thank you. We'd like to thank Mayor and the Council of the City of Oceanside for sharing a Native American Month with us and part of our community, one of the original communities here in Oceanside. We have our elder, Clara Guy, I want to say is 94? Will be 95 in February. So, yeah, there you go. And she's her sister's 93. 92? Okay. My mother's young, I think. 86, young. Boy. Well, if we could all live and have a good life like they do. Yeah, okay. Well, anyway, I would like to thank Oceanside community and allowing us to be a part of the celebration and also invite everyone to our powwow. It's going to be 20 years at the Mission San Luis Rey, second weekend in June. Thank you.
Thanks very much for inviting us here again, and I do enjoy coming over here And I was born right here in Oceanside, graduated here in Oceanside, worked when Camp Pendleton first started as one of the messenger girls. And we do have a street named after Bassett, which is a maiden name, and a school, and part of a children's playground, and also part of Oceanside Park, which is in back of Camp Pendleton. But it's great to be here every year, and I'm going to keep it up as long as I can. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. A real part of the heritage of Oceanside. Really, here, all these people, the tribes. Vern, I know you're at everything, and I see your other people here just about every event I go, they're at. So I want to thank them all. Let's hear it one more last time for this group. Thank you.
Okay, next we have the Mayor's Business Member Spotlight. Will David Nidegger, CEO and President of the Chamber of Commerce, please come forward, along with Business Members of the Month, Kim and Mark Millwood, owner of That Boy Good Restaurant, their son, Victor Vijo, Kim's mom, Mickey McCarthy, and Matt Owsley, General Manager.
Honorable Mayor, members of the council, and yes, it's my privilege, and I want to give special thanks to the mayor for allowing us to represent our business members here down at City Hall. It's a great opportunity for the business community to get connected with the folks down here on 300 North Coast Highway. Anyway, this month we're very pleased to honor Matt, and you're Kim. Mark. Okay. Hi, Mark. Anyway, Mark and Kim came to Oceanside about 4 years ago and started That Boy Good. And if you like ribs, that's the place to go. It was really a very easy decision for us to honor them this month. After I got their bios, I'm really excited because I wish Mark had been in the Navy when I was in the Navy, because the food that I had wasn't nearly as good as what he did when he was the cook in the Navy, I'm sure. But anyway, Mark and Kim, thank you very much. They're great members of the community. Great opportunity for one to help a charity. They give tiles, or they sell tiles on the roof of their business. So you can go down there and buy tiles, $50, put your logo up on the ceiling tile, and then that money goes right to the Crown Heights. Yeah, and so this money's North County Lifeline, right here in the community. That's a wonderful thing. Kim also serves on the board of directors for Main Street and is also in the Economic Development Commission. So thank you very much. Kim? This is for you.
I just want to say that we love Oceanside, and we are so grateful to be a part of this community, and we've been growing like crazy. The community's welcomed us with open arms, and we just try to give back as much as we can. So that's it. Would you like to say? Thanks.
Tell all the girls your name.
I'm Victor.
Very good. Matter of fact, I had lunch there yesterday. I really enjoy it, but also somebody here next to Dave is also in the Economic Development Commission, and we appreciate helping Oceanside develop, and all of your input helps because you do a wonderful job in the business. I know you're the cook, and I know you make everything happen, but get the names of everybody.
Absolutely. So this is Matt Owsley. He's our general manager. He makes all the magic happen out front, does a really good job. We heavily recruited him from Bell, Colorado. We met Matt. I actually met and married my wife Kim in Bell, Colorado. I was executive chef up there for a couple of big resorts. Matt was a bar manager and a banquet server at my hotel, and he did such a great job. We decided when we came out here to do That Boy Good that we're going to get him out here somehow. And everything organically kind of grew, and Matt joined us, and our restaurant has just been, our business has been skyrocketing. My stepson Victor, Kim's son, been with us for the whole ride. He actually works in the restaurant a little bit here and there. He's not home doing homework, so he's doing a great job. Kim's mother, Mickey, is coming out to join us and visit, and basically help babysit our other two kids, our two dogs, and help in the restaurant as well. So we're blessed, and we're just happy to be here in Oceanside, and it's a great community, and we're trying to give back as much as possible through charity, and also being a business that's hiring people with limited or no skills. I think 99% of people who work in my kitchen started there, didn't even know how to chop an onion, and I've grown a sous chef and two great lead cooks out of raw talent. So that's another goal of ours as we grow our business and grow our businesses in Oceanside, is to give everybody an opportunity to come in and learn this aspect of hospitality. Great thing. We appreciate it.
Don't forget to try it. Go down That Boy Good on Hills Coast Highway. Excuse me, I stick to it. But other hand, don't hold it against them that they support the New Orleans Saints. That's a different story.
Okay, we have one more proclamation to do. Would Jason Dafford, Interim Water Utilities Director, please come forward? Proclamation in honor of Jason Dafford. Whereas Jason Dafford has been a dedicated, loyal, and responsible public servant to the City of Oceanside for the past 8 years, and whereas Jason has maintained a high level of integrity and strong work ethic in his positions of Water Project Manager, Water Utilities Division Manager, and finally, Interim Water Utilities Director, and whereas Jason worked to provide pure water, the most basic and essential resource needed by all, through safe drinking water and water source protection, and whereas Jason's efforts provided water, wastewater, and drainage services of the highest quality while striving for exceptional customer service and environmental stewardship, now therefore, the City Council of the City of Oceanside wishes to express its deepest appreciation for Jason Dafford's dedication and commitment to Oceanside, and for his unwavering efforts in providing exceptional oversight of water utilities. We thank Jason for his years of successful service and wish him luck in all of his future endeavors. Issued this 18th day of November, 2015.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to have served the public over the last eight and a half years, and I couldn't have done it without the staff that I have. I'm a representative of the water department, but I've got an excellent staff, and they really make me shine and make me look good. So I want to thank the staff that I work with every day. It's been an absolute pleasure to serve the residents, and it's been a pleasure to work with the council. They've been very supportive of the department, and I can't say enough for what we've done as a department, as a city. So thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, sitting through the awards that we give out. I think a lot of these people deserve it, and we put them on TV for just that reason. They've done a lot for Oceanside. I have a choice of going forward with all these things like the tattoo parlor and the rate increase for the water, but they have several speakers.
Yes.
Let's get them out of the way, and we'll go with them.
First, we have Kathy Nichol.
Hi, Kathy.
Hi.
Anything going on?
A few things.
Honorable Mayor, council members, viewing public, and attendees, my name is Kathy Nichol. I'm with Main Street Oceanside, and we have a lot of things going on both in the downtown and throughout the city because the holidays are coming up. We did put out a Thanksgiving dining guide for our restaurants that are in the downtown. It is on our website, mainstreetoceanside.com. We will be putting those out at our hotels and RV parks too, so that they are aware of what places are open. And then, of course, right after Thanksgiving, Main Street partners with the City of Oceanside for the annual holiday tree lighting. Each year we try to bring an activity for the family to come down and watch our city tree be lit at the Regal Plaza. That'll be December 3rd. Fire department will be bringing in the Honorable Mayor and, of course, Santa. At 6 o'clock, they'll be lighting the tree. We have activities throughout the night between 5:30 and 8 o'clock. Parks and Rec will be providing music, entertainment that night, free crafts, milk and cookies, of course. Please bring your camera or phone to take a picture with Santa. We'll have an obstacle course, carriage rides, tree climb, zip line. There's a lot of activities there, and of course, it's held in conjunction with the holiday market, Sunset Market, on Thursday. So for the first 3 Thursdays, we will have our holiday markets decorating. Of course, there's only one Santa, so the Santa will be at the tree lighting on the 3rd, and then at the markets on the 10th and the 17th. Great way, one-stop shopping, come down, get a bite to eat, view the downtown. And just a reminder, we will be closed Thanksgiving, Christmas Eve, and New Year's Eve. So that's several weeks that will be closed for the Sunset Market. The day market will be open Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve. And of course, don't forget, we have Art Walk the very first Friday of the month. That will be on the 4th of December. And of course, our Zero Waste is doing Gift and Brew on that Saturday. So lots of great things going on in the downtown, and I'll be back after Thanksgiving to talk about all the other things that are going on in December. So thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, Kathy.
Mayor, I'd just like to say that looks an awful lot like a Christmas tree.
I think you're right.
Thank you.
Next, we have Tom Cowan.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. First off, thank you for allowing me the time to speak to you. We started out with a group of 4 people, and now we're up over 200 people that will have a stand down for the homeless veterans next October at Palomar College. I am here asking for your support in this in whatever way you possibly can. I will come back later and ask for a financial contribution. I'm not going to do that at this time now. But as you know, from Oceanside, which has large homeless population, right through Escondido, where I live, there are at least 1,000 homeless people down the 78 corridor. Anywhere from 250 to 400 of them have served our country. Hopefully, you will be able to help us. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Next, we have Julia Shriver. Julia Shriver.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
Sure.
We have a business on Coast Highway, Jordan's Upholstery, and we've been there since 1954, and we've had a great amount of homeless people in the alley. It's a big problem. The police department has been wonderful. Every time someone on our block has had to call, they have been there immediately. They've helped the problem, removed them, but we have an encampment problem on our alley. They defecate, they urinate, not only on our property, but down at Beaudry's, at Allen's Bike Shop. They hop the fence, they break the locks, and I have spoken with some of them, and I've asked them, there is a police force that will help the homeless. And I've asked them, I will call for you, I will get help for you, and they refuse to have the help. So I'm wondering how we can deal with this problem. There's a lot of organizations and churches who feed the homeless, but is this helping? Is it helping by feeding them and not saying, okay, well, something is required of you? So I'm asking for help from the city because really no one knows what to do. Thank you.
Next, we have Andrew Jordan.
Yes, thank you, City Council, for tonight. And as my sister was just here, we have a business, Jordan's Upholstery, and we've been there since 1954. And we're just wondering about the redevelopment in our area between, like an 8-block area. There hasn't been much done, and we love the city, and we just want to see what can be done or what improvements can be done in our area, as a lot of redevelopment's been done north of us in this area, and then like in South Oceanside, more near Vista Way, or from Cassidy. And it's just a beautiful city, and we like to know what can be done from the city and their help and their vision for our area, what can beautify and make our businesses more attractive and people be out walking, and just help everybody in general. The city, helps taxes, more businesses, and thank you for your time.
Next, we have Francis Kozierski.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. 5 years after World War II, my father, Frank Kazurski, stationed in the Army, met and married a young German girl in West Germany, and they had their honeymoon in Paris, France. And because of their time that they spent in France, was a beautiful time, 1950, I'm asking, in light of the tragedy in France, if you take a minute of silence and remember the horrible crime that's committed to the French people. So I'm going to put myself down for a minute of silence right now. Okay? Thank you. I'm deeply grieved with the tragedy in France, and I'm asking for your prayers for the French people and for their families. Thank you.
Next, we have Beth Singleton. Comes a group. And Mindy Martin and Regis Farr.
Good evening. We're here tonight because our 12-year-old neighbor and friend, Logan Lipton, was killed last month while riding his bike on Coast Highway. He was a very special kid whose death was shocking, heartbreaking, and completely preventable. For this reason, we have formed the Logan Lipton Bike Path Initiative. Logan took one of two routes, both fairly unsafe, available to students who live in North Oceanside who go to school in South Oceanside. He was riding along the sidewalk along the east side of Coast Highway when he was struck and killed by a pickup exiting the RV park halfway between Oceanside Boulevard and Moore Street in what we call the dip. I can't say for sure why Logan was riding on the sidewalk against traffic that morning, but I can tell you why one would do that. The bike lane is not safe. It's far too narrow and has a significant lip straight down the middle, which forces bikers either to the left towards traffic or the right towards the storm drain. The bike lane is often full of trash and debris. Obviously, there is no physical barrier or even a painted buffer between cars and bikes. And even the paint demarcating the lane is not wide or bright or otherwise eye-catching. And most importantly, cars race through the dip, as I'm sure the OPD can attest.
Hi. Long before this incident with Logan, I myself, a bicyclist and a mother of a 6-month-old child who uses a stroller and uses our sidewalks all along the city, particularly downtown Oceanside. We all know that Coast Highway is not necessarily a safe way of transportation for bicyclists or pedestrians. Now, because of what happened, I feel like those who maybe are more car drivers, motorists, now we have a new aspect and a new light as to why this safety is so important. We have a new and different kind of knowledge, and because of this, now we have an obligation. We can't even let this happen again. I don't even want it to be an option. And so because of that, we simply must act. This week, hundreds of people and I mean hundreds, that have been mourning for this 12-year-old boy. We've been refocusing our efforts on how to celebrate his life, and how to protect our kids, my son, her son, all of our children here in Oceanside, particularly here in downtown Oceanside. I don't want to be the one hounding you guys down, but we're going to be sending you letters. We're going to be calling you. We're going to be coming into your offices. We're probably going to get really annoying. But it's just because of our passion and the dedication we're going to have behind this. We're not going to be silenced on this. But we are putting together a detailed agenda. We're going to be organized, and we're not going to just be emotional and, clouded minded. And Mindy here will kind of tell you our brief outline.
So briefly, my name's Mindy Martin. So briefly, we have three kind of parts to this plan at this point. First, we're going to try to convince you to prioritize bike and pedestrian safety when you're deciding the preferred alternative for the Coast Highway Vision Plan. Children in this city deserve a safe route to school, and there does not exist one. The city is bisected in the middle by the trailer park, and there is no safe way between North Oceanside and South Oceanside on bike or foot. They deserve a safe path, and the city has an obligation to provide that. Second, we will work with the city, with the council, to try to find the funding that's necessary to move forward on the section of the rail trail between Oceanside Boulevard and Morse. This is the most urgent section of the rail trail. It is the only non-redundant section, and by that I mean where the other rail trails, there's actually safe neighborhood streets. I mean, it's beautiful. Please don't misunderstand. I love the sections of the rail trail that are completed. However, they're actually going through places where there are safe alternatives to get use on a bike or foot. The only stretch that is absolutely urgent and for which there is no other alternative is the stretch between Oceanside and Morse, and yet it seems to be on hold indefinitely. So it's my understanding that we need to get some funds for the environmental impact statement that needs to be done in order to go across the creek. So we want to work with the city and with the council to try to make that a priority. And then lastly, we want to, keeping in mind that both of those things are going to take years. Lastly, we have a set of recommendations that can be done now and that are cost effective. They include but are not limited to painting the full lane, not just the line between, and preferably in something other than white that is immediately filthy from the street and not easy to see. Widening the lane with paint if that's feasible. Temporary dividers that give a visual buffer for cars. Better signage, and I'm not sure of this, but I think actually there's zero signage in that area that reminds cars that they are to share the road. Speed enforcement and potentially a lower speed limit through the dip. Mirrors and stop signs at every obstructed driveway that comes onto Coast Highway, and also code enforcement for walls, trees, and other obstructions that prevent bikers and drivers from seeing each other. Thank you for giving us the time this evening. We're looking forward to taking a lot more of your time in the future. And really, the last thing I want to say is that it doesn't matter if we can't afford it, and it doesn't matter if it's really hard, because we just have to do it anyway. And so we hope that we can work with y'all to get it done.
I'm sorry, we don't usually respond to people on items not on the agenda, but my city manager will give you a card. Call her, and we have a bicycle committee.
Yep, we met with them.
Sandag and everybody else that she can help with. Hey, thank you.
Okay, great. As far as we understand, though, it's you guys who really need to get on board.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
No more public on that item. No more public on this item.
Thank you very much. At your convenience, item number 24, please.
Yes. Item number 24 is adoption of a resolution approving conditional use permit RCUP 15-0001 and a waiver of location criteria to allow a tattoo establishment, including 6 tattoo stations and a tattoo museum within an existing 1,051 square foot commercial tenant space located at 604 Mission Avenue in the downtown zone district. Oceanside Tattoo and Museum, applicant Jason and Melissa Betts.
Good evening, Mayor Wood, members of the council. Give us one moment here and we'll get this laptop unlocked. If Ramon is close by. Let me go ahead and begin my presentation. This evening, Jason and Melissa Betts, owners of Frontline Tattoo, are before council this evening requesting approval of a conditional use permit to relocate an existing tattoo establishment that operates at 3753 Mission Avenue to a location here in the downtown at 604 Mission Avenue. And so this is not a new proposal or a new establishment, but a relocated establishment. Thank you, Ramon. The nature of tattoo establishments and other regulated uses is governed by provisions of Article 36, regulated uses of the municipal code. And the code looks at these uses because of their unique impacts, unique circumstances, because of the fact that they affect the potential character of the downtown area. And so tattoo establishment uses, along with other similar types of uses, are governed by this purpose and intent statement, which looks at essentially preventing blight and depreciated property value and other potentially adverse impacts of regulated uses in the downtown. As I've noted, the proposed project is to relocate to 604 Mission. That's an existing vacant commercial space. It's about a block south of City Hall here. The proposal is to establish roughly a 430 square foot tattoo museum with various exhibits. And I'm going to let the applicant talk a little bit about that during their presentation. The overall tenant space is a little bit over 1,000 square feet. The applicant has prepared an operations and management plan at the request of the city, and the intent of that operations and management plan is to provide a number of operating constraints to assure that not only will the use comply with city requirements, but also more importantly with state and county public health requirements. The exhibit shows both the location and the proposed layout of the 1,000 square foot commercial tenant space. The left part of the graphic there up on the display shows the cross-hatched area, the existing tenant space, and you can see it's bordered by two commercial tenant spaces to the west and to the east, and then a larger area to the rear, to the north of the building. The layout is fairly straightforward. The front 400 square foot is the reception area and proposed tattoo museum. The remainder of the tenant space would be divided up into 6 different cubicle areas to provide services. The staff's analysis has looked at consistency with the city's redevelopment plan, with the zoning ordinance, and we've also done an evaluation of the project with regard to the locational criteria established by Article 36. The primary goal that operates here is the redevelopment plan's goal to promote the long-term viability and rejuvenation of the redevelopment area consistent with the overall policies and improvements of the city. So this is fairly broad language, but very clearly what this language speaks to is redeveloping the downtown, assuring that where we have vacancies, those vacancies are filled by virtue of the fact that we've got a business that's relocating from a commercial area and occupying vacant space. It certainly broadly is consistent with this particular goal of the redevelopment plan. The redevelopment zoning ordinance, we look at that, and as council is probably well aware, the downtown is divided into a number of planning areas. This particular project location at 604 Mission is located in the subsection 2 area, and interestingly, this purpose and intent statement states that this area is intended to provide sites for a financial center supported by professional offices. Residential uses are permitted when and where appropriate as part of a mixed-use development. And in looking at this, staff went beyond looking at just the purpose and intent. We looked at the uses that are allowable within this district. And what we found was that, interestingly, purpose and intent statements are generally a little bit more broad, and they are more detailed through the actual use provisions. In this particular case, we have a purpose and intent statement that is relatively narrowly defined in terms of the range of activities that may occur within that planning area. But when we inform that purpose and intent statement with the types of uses, we find that, in fact, the intent is really much broader than that. Just as an example, as we've indicated in the staff analysis, allowable uses consisting both of permitted and conditional uses within this sub-district. They include daycare, limited in general, clubs, lodges, cultural institutions, government offices, religious assembly, utilities, bank savings and loan, catering services, commercial recreation and entertainment, and a number of other uses I won't go on to note. But very clearly, the range of uses is much, much broader than what is established and what's called out by the subsection 2. By virtue of the characteristics that are commonly associated with these uses in terms of foot traffic, trip generation, parking demand, all of those, the proposed use is very, very similar to many of the uses that are permitted within that district. And so staff has recommended a determination that the tattoo establishment use would be substantially consistent with the provisions of subsection 2. We've also gone through and done a evaluation of the waiver of locational criteria. Council, I'm sure, will note that along Mission Avenue, we do not have any other regulated uses within that corridor. There are a number of regulated uses along Coast Highway and to the areas to the west of Coast Highway, but not within the Mission Avenue corridor. And by virtue of that, we conclude that the ability does exist for council to make findings that the waiver of locational criteria can be met. A few factual considerations we would ask council to consider this evening. Those include the fact that there have been no prior code violations or service calls to OPD or to code enforcement. As I noted earlier in my presentation, the proposed use would occupy a existing vacant commercial tenant space. We've provided both letters of support and opposition as an attachment to your staff report, and those include letters of support from the Chamber of Commerce and Main Street Oceanside. Finally, at the Wednesday, October 28th meeting, the city's Downtown Advisory Committee reviewed the project, and they did forward it to the council with a favorable recommendation by a 4-1 vote. In the case of this particular application, as we have noted in the past, the City Council has complete discretion. Staff has done a detailed analysis. We are making a recommendation to the Council acting as Community Development Commission. Certainly the Council could, in evaluating the facts and the information in the record, arrive at a different conclusion than staff's recommendation, and should that occur, the Commission would then provide staff with the factual basis to go and prepare the necessary findings to support Council's action. This evening's staff recommendation to Council is to adopt a resolution conditionally approving this conditional use permit to allow a tattoo establishment to operate at 604 Mission, and in conjunction with that, that would be contingent on closure of the existing tattoo establishment that operates at 3753 Mission Avenue. We did also receive yesterday a letter of support from Emily Wolfkuhl, and copies of that letter of support have been provided on the dais to the council. And I know that Mr. Marco Gonzalez with Coast Law Group is here this evening and has a presentation planned for the commission. So with that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. See the sidebar, please. You can have a seat at the sidebar where you're waiting. Thank you. Mr. Gonzalez, how are you?
Thank you, Mayor Wood, members of the council, the commission tonight. My name is Marco Gonzalez with Coast Law Group. I've been representing Jason and Melissa Betts for upwards of 10 years now, multiple establishments throughout North County. We were here back in April with a proposal for a different location, and after that hearing, we heard loud and clear that some folks would like to see this elsewhere. After investigating various locations, 604 Mission stood out. We met with the neighbors. We went through a COP program, community outreach program, and at the end of the day, we feel like this is a good place. It's a little bit smaller. We're still going to have the museum. The quality of materials that will be presented in the museum will be the same, just not quite as large as we'd hoped down on Coast Highway. That being said, you've all heard our proposal, and I think staff has accurately characterized what we're asking for and how it qualifies under the zoning ordinance and the general plan. So I'm going to have Jason step up and make a few remarks, and then we'll be available to take questions.
Thank you.
Hello, Mayor Wood and members of the City Council. My name is Jason Betts. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to our application for a tattoo establishment and museum at 604 Mission Avenue. As you know, my wife Melissa and I are longtime residents and business owners here in the city of Oceanside. And we look forward to continuing to raise our children and live out our lives right here in this community. We feel this is important to consider because when you hear the various concerns raised by opponents to our project, the problems they worry about could only occur if we as owners were absent or otherwise not invested in downtown and the success of all the businesses around us. And that's just not the case. I've been here my whole life, and we've put our heart and souls into our businesses. You can be confident that this tattoo shop and museum will be amongst the most clean, professional, and reputable businesses in downtown. Since we were last before you, the city implemented a citizens outreach program requirement. While some might look negatively at the added red tape, we took it as an opportunity to fully engage as much of the community as possible. We provided an on-seat meeting, sent out additional notices, and really tried to understand the perspectives of those who expressed concerns with our proposal. And what we learned in the end were two things. First, in reviewing emails and talking to people, we found among the opponents a gut reaction to the notion of a tattoo shop. This reaction was typically generational, and the opinions were based on past experiences with or perceptions of tattoo shops downtown or elsewhere. They weren't based on us, our experience, our history in Oceanside, or with an understanding of our project's specifics. Second, as a result of the COP process, we found that more often than not, when someone had concerns, they were rather easily dispatched after a quick conversation with Melissa and myself. Once people meet us, see our kids, listen to our passion and commitment, they realize that this use is not something to be scared of. This experience has really taught us the value of reaching out to all the businesses around us and working together toward the common goal of a vibrant, successful downtown for tourists and locals alike. So with that, we would simply ask that you vote in favor of our proposal, just like the DAC, the Chamber, and Main Street did. If you have any questions, I or my attorney, Marco Gonzalez, would be more than happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I forgot to open this public hearing. I'll do so now, and I mainly want to get disclosures from the council, please.
Staff, and I think we've had some letters.
Applicant.
Applicant, personal letters, personal contact with the applicant.
Staff, members of the public.
Applicant, last time this came up, and I talked to the applicant's attorney's office this past week.
Thank you. And correspondence petitions from...
Correspondence has been distributed to council.
Yes, sir. Thank you. That's all. Public.
Yeah, on this item, we have two members of the public who have turned in blue sheets who I'll call first, then it'll be open to anyone else who'd like to speak on this item. First, we have Michael Hackett.
Thank you, Michael.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, fellow citizens of Oceanside. I'm here as a private citizen on behalf of this proposal, and I support it. I originally came to Oceanside 51 years ago this month as a young Marine going to ITR. And I went downtown to Oceanside to what was then Hill Street, and watched The Endless Summer with Bruce Brown before it was actually a movie. And I didn't like it. I was a very naive young Northern Californian. When I retired from Santa Clara County several years ago, my wife and I were talking about where we were going to retire. My vote was for Savannah, Georgia. My wife said she wanted to live in San Diego County so she'd be close to our daughter and grandchildren in Encinitas, her mother in San Marcos, and my son, the policeman, in Calexico. So we compromised and we moved to northern San Diego County. She originally found the home that we settled in here in Oceanside, and I said, there's no way in the world I want to live in that city after my experience in 1964. She said, it's wonderful, it's changed. So I called one of my FBI Academy classmates, Mike Shipley with Carlsbad PD, and asked him about the city, and he said, man, it's the best kept secret in northern San Diego County. We bought our home, and that was the best decision my wife ever made. And since that time, I've had occasion to meet both Jason and Melissa. We have common friends in the various communities here, and I've grown affectionate towards them, and I have a great deal of respect for the quality of what they do, how they do it, and how they run their businesses. And I am very much moved by the fact that the Chamber of Commerce and the Downtown Association are both in support of their project. I have read the opposition documents from Ms. Wallace, from the Dominguezes, from Mr. Hatter, and I agree with their desire to keep our community forthright and moving forward. But I also think of the vision statement that's posted on the wall right outside, where we want to promote and enhance the cultural arts of our community. I think Jason and Melissa Betts can do exactly that in a responsible and reputable method for our community, and I thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you, sir.
Next, we have Donna McGinty.
My name is Donna McGinty, and 2405 Mesa Drive. I'm a 74-year resident of this community in Oceanside. I had an occasion to have a personal issue with the need for some cosmetic surgery that occurred with one of my own earlobes splitting wide open. And I went to see the Best family at their shop, and it was decided that one of my alternatives to surgery was to do some posts in my earlobe that would accommodate even my pretty earrings. And I've had them in there for about 12 years now, and I've never had a problem with them, and frankly, nobody knows too much about that. They don't pay much attention to that, so it's not some god-awful thing that's ugly or scorned upon. I think the young couple have some glorious interest in cosmetically applying, artistically applying some art to some areas and personal interest to a lot of folks that are otherwise just perhaps a scar they'd rather not look at every day. And it turns out to be a pretty flower or a rose of some sort of, or perhaps a bird or something that you would never realize they've had a problem where that art exists. I think they'll be commended. Their idea of exhibiting an ancient art for us to become truly familiar with in the right way is something that we need. And frankly, we need all the young people in this community that we can get as entrepreneurs to show themselves down here and start taking possession of the downtown area as their territory to do business in, and start making application to move everywhere they are into the downtown area and take it as their own. They're our future, and we need them down here really, really badly, and I completely support this couple. Thank you.
This is a public hearing. If anyone else would like to speak on this particular item, you may come forward this time.
Evening, honorable members of the council. My name is David Nidegger. I'm the president and CEO of the Oceanside Chamber of Commerce. And the Oceanside Chamber of Commerce is again pleased to support Oceanside resident Jason and Melissa Betts, owners and operators of Oceanside Tattoo Company, and their plans to expand their business into Mission Avenue and downtown Oceanside. Oceanside has placed a great emphasis in recent years in promoting our downtown area as a center for arts and culture. With the Betts family 20 years of experience in the tattoo industry, we feel that Betts business is a great fit for Oceanside and will help create a positive synergy that will benefit their neighboring businesses. The Chamber has placed an emphasis on promoting the history of our great city, and we're very pleased to learn that the Oceanside Tattoo Company is planning a historical tattoo exhibit showcasing the Oceanside's tattoo history. Jason and Melissa opened their first business in Oceanside in 2003. Just dated myself there. In 2003, and have been good citizens in our community for many years. We're excited that they are expanding their practice in downtown Oceanside and look forward to seeing their business grow. We're confident that Oceanside Tattoo Company will be a positive addition to the downtown area for many, many years. And as a lifelong resident of the city of Oceanside, I've lived through Oceanside in 62, 63, 64, 75, when it was not the kind of place that you'd want to take your family. It is now. It is an outstanding place. Our city rocks. Thank you.
Mayor, council members, Jimmy Knott, 127 Cherry Lane. First off, I want to thank them for their outreach, even as far as South Oceanside. And I want to say that their plan has been well established and it was well put forward. They have shown they want to be part of Oceanside's community. However, I want to take and bring up one thing, and that is with the museum. I hope it is balanced, that they also bring up the horrors of tattoos as well, like what the Nazis did in World War II, how gang affiliation, how it was used for slavery and for modern sex slavery, and how bad tattoos have been used and how that they can be corrected. I know that they have said that they will take and, with gang tattoos, eliminate them, and I appreciate that. Also, what they have said is that Celtic, Polynesian, and almost all cultures will be reflected into their museum, as well as bringing up medical uses, like covering up for those people that do not have eyebrows, that they can have artificial ones, and other body dysmorphisms. I really want to take and support this. Thank you.
Any other members of the public wishing to speak on this specific item may come forward at this time.
Mr. Clerk, I see none. I'll close the public hearing and come back to the council. Mr. Kern, please.
Thank you. I think we had a pretty thorough discussion last time this came up, and the only thing that was my colleagues brought up was location. I think the location has been corrected. In the meantime, I did some reading on tattoos, and one amazing statistic now that 1 in 5 adults in the United States have a tattoo. So it's 20%. In my immediate family with 5 adults, it's 60%. So I'm going to move adoption of the resolution approving the conditional use permit.
Second.
We have a second. Thank you. Councilmember Sanchez, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What's before us is another try to get a tattoo shop down in the downtown, actually in the redevelopment area. That hasn't been corrected. This is the redevelopment area. In fact, it's probably worse in that the city has just recently spent millions of dollars improving Mission Avenue and creating wider sidewalks so that we could have these sidewalk cafes. So unfortunately, that is not going to happen here at this location. Again, the intent for redevelopment that, and the city spent millions and millions of dollars on redevelopment, was that businesses should be revenue generating. This one will have no sales tax generated, that it be visitor serving. I don't see this as a visitor serving business. And also that regulated use shall be unlawful to locate within 1,000 feet of another regulated use, and it's located within 1,000 feet of 13 other regulated uses. So I wish that there would be another location near the downtown area. There's lots of places where it could go. This place, I think, is actually worse again than the last one, and so I'm going to be voting against. Thank you.
Thank you. Please vote.
Motion approved, 3-2. Sanchez, Feller, no.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. When you have a moment, Mr. Clerk, would you do item number 26?
Yes.
25.
Item number 25 is the introduction of an ordinance amending Chapter 29 of the City Code by establishing wastewater user rate increases, and introduction of an ordinance amending Chapter 37 of the City Code by establishing water user rate and external water provider charge increases.
Thank you. Jason, welcome back.
Yeah, disclosures and Mayor Wood.
Thank you. Welcome to this public hearing, item 25. Mr. Clerk, will you read it in, please? He did? Okay. Yeah, okay. Mayor, I will open this public hearing and ask for closures from council members.
Staff, public, and I think that's about it.
Staff and public.
Staff and quite a few public.
Staff, public, I have a lot of emails and correspondence as well as by phone and personally.
Staff and public.
Jason, please.
Honorable Mayor and council members, I am here tonight to present to you the proposed water and wastewater rate increases. But first, I would like to discuss some of the previous decisions made by this governing body. The council has been very proactive in its endeavor to be water independent by adopting a goal to produce or provide 50% of our water needs from local sustainable sources. The council has also approved the use of groundwater as a supply by investing over $23 million into our Mission Basin groundwater purification facility. The council approved the expansion of a recycled water system, of which the first phase was just recently completed, and is the first step in getting recycled water to users to replace the use of potable water for irrigation. We have invested in indirect potable reuse studies that will help recharge our local groundwater basin, which will allow us additional extraction as well as providing sustainability to the basin by supplementing its natural recharge. And finally, the endeavor to investigate seawater desalination. We've spent several years working on this project, which could provide between 15 to 30% of our future water demands upon its completion. This council has made difficult decisions, resulted in positive impacts to our ratepayers, and I fully anticipate you to continue to make those good decisions and forge forward towards water independence. In past years, council has approved rate increases which help develop and fund our water independence goals. We are on track and beginning to see some of the positive impacts of those decisions that have been made. The Water Department previously developed a rate structure that was designed around current and projected water sales. We are at a different time and place now. This increase today is due to mandatory restrictions and conservation required by the state, of which was not anticipated when developing old rate structures. Our residents, our businesses, and our farmers have done an excellent job and done their part in saving water. Now we are faced with a difficult reality of rate increases necessary to cover our water fixed expenses. Statewide conservation levels were set by the governor at 25%. Oceanside was lucky enough to be a little bit less at 20%. Our residents have done an excellent job. We have conserved, beginning in June, 25, 32, 23, 27, and this past month, 21%. Our cumulative conservation level is approximately 26% since we began the conservation regulations. With this conservation, the department has seen a significant reduction in revenues at approximately $1.5 million per month. Because we purchase a majority of our water from the Water Authority, it's our largest expense. We do see a reduction in that cost of approximately $0.5 million, which leaves us a net revenue shortfall of about $1 million per month beginning in June of 2015. The overall shortage since June is approximately $5 million. The department thus far has absorbed those shortfalls, but we can no longer continue to do so moving forward. It is anticipated that we will see long-term conservation regulations even after the emergency regs have been lifted. Furthermore, on Friday of last week, Governor Brown signed a bill that would extend the emergency regulations through October of 2016 if the drought conditions persist, which is a prime indicator that our conservation levels will remain as they are. The water fund revenue requirements for fiscal year 15-16 are approximately $58.5 million. A majority of our expenses, as shown here on this slide, are for the purchase of water from the San Diego County Water Authority, for our operations and maintenance, our personnel. Debt payments make up a small portion of that, and then also our capital funding program. We have reduced our capital funding by about $2 million as part of this rate increase in order to mitigate the impacts to our customers. The recommended rate increase as part of this action is a melded 18.9%. This number is comprised of the following: a decrease in our capital contribution for fiscal year 15-16, increase in the San Diego County Water Authority surcharge to $2.29 per 100 cubic feet. This trues up the charge to reflect the variable San Diego County Water Authority imported water cost and also a new supply reliability charge. An increase in the Metropolitan Water District's readiness to serve fixed pass-through to $1.99 per meter equivalent, and then also apply a 7.5% increase across the board to all of the city's internal rates, both fixed and variable. The items that I have highlighted in red are the cost of purchasing water from the County Water Authority and Metropolitan, and those are considered our pass-through costs and are required to be paid when purchasing water. The following slides will illustrate the financial impact to a typical single-family residential customer. A typical single-family residential customer that used 12 units of water prior to the mandatory conservation and who is not complying with the regulations will see an increase in their bill of approximately $12.26, or the stipulated 18.9%. Those who do not comply with the regulations will be paying more, and frankly, they should pay more. A typical single-family residential customer who is complying with the regulations and reducing their consumption by 17% as compared to prior to the emergency regulations will see an increase of an average bill of $2.68 per month, or approximately 4.1%. We have used this 17% conservation level in all of our projections moving forward, and this will be the new baseline even after the emergency regulations have been lifted. Our residents, our businesses, and our farmers have made a lifestyle change, and less water usage has become the standard. Now I'd like to move on to our wastewater rates. Over 50% of our wastewater revenues are generated from flow-based rates. The sewer flows and rates are not nearly as affected by the conservation, because most of the conservation that we are seeing is from irrigation and not indoor use. We will be subject to revenue shortfalls of approximately $3.9 million in the wastewater fund for fiscal year 15-16. The total revenue for our wastewater fund is $42 million. A majority of the expenses are for operations and maintenance, personnel, followed by capital funding and debt payments, as shown here on this slide. The recommendations for wastewater is to maintain our capital program contribution, repay a loan that was taken out from the water fund for the emergency land outfall repair project, and implement a 3% across-the-board increase for fiscal year 15-16. In summary, the water fund requires a true-up of the San Diego County Water Authority charges, addition of San Diego Water Authority Supply Reliability Charge, an increase to the Metropolitan Water District Readiness to Serve charges, and a 7.5% across-the-board city fixed and variable charges, resulting in the melded increase of 18.9%. On the wastewater fund, we are looking at a 3% across-the-board rate increase. In conclusion, the pass-through rates must be adopted. The one question that everybody's asking is what happens if these rates are not approved. The impacts to the department and the funds would be devastating. We would be required to suspend all capital projects, cancel all of the work that we've been doing and will be doing on the alternative water supply projects, which helps us reach that goal of water independence locally. We would see higher rate increases in the future years, potentially 8% or more in the following years, and multiple increases. We would see an increase in potentially emergency projects due to deferred maintenance. It would be detrimental impact to the existing infrastructure, resulting in potential regulatory fines. We would also have a negative impact on our credit rating, which also would require us to increase future debt issuance, and that debt issuance would then be at a higher rate and increasing furthermore the rate increases in the future. And lastly, we may be required to implement our drought rates. Here's a recap of what we've done thus far and what our schedule is moving forward. On August 18th, the Utilities Commission approved the new rate structure. The 218 notices were sent to all of our ratepayers between September the 2nd and October the 2nd. Tonight is our public hearing, and hopefully the council will introduce the ordinance, and if so, council will have the opportunity to adopt the ordinance at the December 2nd council meeting. The rates will then become effective in our first billing cycle, January 4th, 2016. And finally, the Water Utilities Department is recommending the introduction of both the ordinances as provided, and this concludes my presentation.
We're going to take public now.
So the yellow indicates the proposed rates and where we would fall in relationship to all of our neighboring agencies in San Diego County. So we're just slightly below the median with the new rates.
Okay, we're going to call forward the members of the public who have turned in blue forms first, then everyone will have an opportunity to speak after that. We're going to call up 4 at a time. We have 2 podiums, so you can line up 2 at a time. First, we have Rick Rakowski, then Harold Leese, Jimmy Knott, and Linda Walshaw. Those are our first 4 speakers.
Council, Krakowski. Here we go again, every year, water hikes, 3 years straight. So we do our job, we save like the Democratic governor tells us to do, and we get punished. We get punished all the time. Will the city bring the price down if we have flooding because of El Nino? Are you going to bring it back for the next 3 years? Or no, because once they're set, they're going to stay that way. And our water and sewer is getting totally out of control now. So, you know what? Let's do some other things. Why does the public always take the hit? We're doing the right thing, we're conserving, and we get punished for it. It's unreal that this is even occurring. How about the city water department taking a 10% budget hit since less water is being used and it's causing less water to be sold? Let them get involved too. They can take a cut in their budget, take a cut in their their 7.3 million personnel budget, and why not use some of that enterprise fund? We got $75 million in an enterprise fund. Let's take some of that money out of there because this is an emergency situation. Why do we, the public, always get nailed when we do what we're supposed to do? We do it, and you guys come back, not you, council, but your yahoos over here from the water department. You know, we have to take the hit, and it happens every year. You guys are never going to take the price down. Why don't you face it? Let's speed up recycled irrigation mainline installation. They've only put in one measly reclaimed water. Maybe they did something at the other place, Goat Hill. They spent $1 million and they can't even complete it. The water's still not being used because they're dickering over whether to have a booster pump or a holding tank. These guys promised Goat Hill to pay for a holding tank and to have a booster pump, have that ready and set to use that water. Now they're not doing it. So they're reneging on that. And it's like, take some of that money out of your $75 million. Here's one, San Diego County Water Authority. They won a huge settlement recently from the Metropolitan Water because they're overcharging us. Do you guys know how much money that is? How come we don't see some of that settlement money? Why does the public always get nailed when we do the right thing? It's ridiculous. This whole state is screwed up with the Democrats, how they run it. You know, you guys need to, it's the Democrats' problem. They've been in charge for the last 20 years. They haven't known that we have water problems. You know, stop nailing us and start thinking with your head instead of your special interest monies.
Hello, you all. Can you hear me? I'm having a hard time hearing things. But anyway, I come here to speak in behalf of myself, my neighbors, and friends who are unable to be here. We are adamantly opposed to the proposed rate hike for many reasons. The most important thing being that we do not believe there is good oversight of our tax money, and this new fee is generating money that the water department does not need. The reason for this is as follows. The yearly revenue for the water already is composed of, wait a minute here. After speaking with the people of the water department, I found out that there are 43,000 city water customers, and the average water bill per month is $180 for every payer. Therefore, the revenue to the city for water is astounding amount, $92,888,000 a year. Actually, this new rate that they call 18.9 and 3.1, that's for the water and the sewer, it comes to 22%. It's kind of funny to me that this is exactly what they did when they first raised our rates that are on our bills now. We're getting about $20 million. I tell you. So on the bill now is they got the 20 million, and now this new one is going to be exactly the same, another 20 million. So somebody says, what do we need to raise the rates to? Well, we got through the other rate. Let's do the same thing. Let's raise it another 20 million. So what that does, you add that 20 million extra that they're going to charge us if this goes through to the 92,880,000 a year, add the 20 million to that, and you get 112,880,000 every year that the consumers are going to have to dig up and pay. Now, that means that there is 51,875,000 surplus for that year. So they got $51 million and thousands of dollars to pay for the incidentals, the infrastructure, and everything else. I'm not trying to get involved into little things like you put on that piece of paper you sent us, because that doesn't mean a thing. If the money we're paying now and the excess is 51 million, is enough to pay for all of to keep the water department going. And you're going to get that every year. It seems like $51 million surplus ought to mean something. And why do we need to pay another $20 million? That's how they got up to 92 by putting that first one in. It was 20 million. On the bills here, I'm talking about the three little items that are called fixed service charge. That's on the water.
Mr. Lees, your time is...
And the other two are fixed service charge and the fixed customer charge. Those three items
Mr. Lees, I'm sorry, I'll call
those three items. Let's see here. Oh, did I run out of time? Okay.
Thank you very much, Zach. Mayor, council members, Jimmy Knott, 127 Cherry Lane. As a point of disclosure, I am Vice Chairman of the Utilities Commission, Chair of the Budget Committee. Being an enterprise fund, we must be self-supporting. The commission reviewed the proposal before you and endorsed it. And we ask that you support this needing increase as well, although we, the commission, had reservations. We recognize that no one really wants a rate increase. But as we all have learned in life, there are things you control and things that you do not control. MWD and San Diego County Water Authority account for much of this increase, and that we do not control. That we do control has been reviewed diligently, circumspectly by the commission. We respect staff for their innovation, and as just one example, slip-lining the wastewater lines, providing about another 20 to 50 years of life at great ratepayer savings that could have caused great traffic delays and months of work if they did not use the slip lining. And this and other innovative ideas have saved the ratepayers millions of dollars. This is something that the public does not know due to their innovation, and thank you. I do have one objection, and that is all of our Social Security recipients in the city will not have any increase this year, yet they will be given a rate increase on their water sewer rates. And this will affect those who are low income or on permanently fixed low income or low income minimum Social Security. You need to address this. You can't treat any group by law with any preference when it comes to water rates. But there is an outlet. There is something you can do. You can work to relieve the cost in other areas, like transportation, food, medical care, etc. You can free up funds in those areas to take from those areas to transfer to cover the cost for the increased utilities cost. Now, I know that the governor wants to see something done in this area, but the laws remain in effect that tell you that you can't take and directly do something. This you can do. This has been done in other areas. You can address this. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Linda Walshaw. I'm here on behalf of Action. We represent 42 Oceanside neighborhoods, and I am the Vice President representing all of the manufactured home communities. That's 17 parks, about 4,500 to 6,000 people, somewhere right in that range, most of them on fixed incomes. I have a couple of news articles that I pulled from the internet from 2012, October 18th of 2012. The headline reads, "Water sewage rates to rise for Oceanside residents." At that time, Water Utilities Director reported that 46% of our costs are paid to the San Diego County Water Authority and Metropolitan Water District for supply and transportation of water. Hopes are, it says, that this portion of the bill will be lowered when pending lawsuits against the district are settled. The article further goes on to say that a request was made by the senior community to reduce monthly amount ratepayers are billed and to spread the charges over 2 years. Kay Parker, I'm sure we all remember Kay, a member of Oceana Homeowners Association, said it's quite a load to put on seniors at one time. Seniors on fixed income are not able to absorb the transition. Then we have an article from November 6th of 2013. Again, the headline reads, "Oceanside adopts new water and sewer rates." This is when we approved a tiered rate system, and it increased the prices for customers except for the single-family homes, and it increased rates for the mobile home park communities, mostly are occupied by our seniors, and those fell into the multifamily dwelling category. Average commercial water users would see an increase, the article says, of about 10%. Other users, including agricultural and multifamily complexes, would also pay higher rates.
Then we have 2014, November 22nd. Beginning in January 2015, water rates will increase by 3.25% and sewer fees increase by 3%. All of this is impacting our seniors. Oceanside's population is made up of over 50% seniors over the age of 50. We do need to address our utility rates. We need to address our housing issues. Seniors are being priced out of both here in this city. And I realize you guys are in a bind as far as infrastructure and the fees that you have to pay, but there's got to be a solution that can be inclusive of our senior population. We're not going to get another increase this year, and I would like to remind you all that over 750 of our mobile home park residents are veterans and widows of veterans. Thank you.
Our next four speakers are Ted Laurie, Susie Schroyer, Ty Wharton, and Joseph Caputo.
My name's Ted Laurie. I live at 410 Edgehill Lane in Oceanside. So I'm opposed to the water rate increase for the following reasons. In 2014, I received a calendar from the Water Department. It was a fairly nice calendar, but it was also a fiscal calendar running from July 1 of 2014 to June 30th of 2015. What resident needs a fiscal calendar? Most businesses use them, but most residents normally prefer a yearly calendar that starts in January 1st and ends on December 31st. With this in mind, I went to the Oceanside Water Department and questioned the lady at the counter. She explained since the city operates on a fiscal calendar year, the calendar was made up as a fiscal one. Try to buy another calendar in July for that year. Pretty hard to find one. I asked how many calendars were mailed out, and she said a calendar was sent to each water meter customer. I asked how many meters were used in the city, and she said approximately 80,000 meters. I asked how much it was spent for the design, printing, mailing of all the calendars, and she told me $50,000. To me, that's $50,000 that could be put back into a better use than calendars. This equates to about 64 cents per calendar. I don't know where you could get something designed, printed, and mailed for 64 cents the size of that calendar. And I have a feeling that she was probably quoting a lot less than what it actually cost, or she was mistaken somewhere. The city can waste money on calendars instead of using the funds for paying for lost revenue due to the city mandated water and use reduction. I find it cannot support that rate increase. I've owned my home for almost 50 years, and I live alone. My only income is from Social Security, so I do have to budget my funds. I've always been conservative with my water usage as well as all my utilities. Several years ago, I had concrete poured all around my home, figuring that eventually that would pay for itself just in the savings of the water. I do not have any yard to water. I have a small incline at the side of my house that has ice plant on it, which I never water because the ice plant doesn't require the water. In June or July of this year, the city came out and they changed my water meter to some type of an electronic reading thing of some sort, however that works. My water usage used to be 1 unit per month. My July and August bills remained at 1 unit per month, or 23 to 25 gallons per day, and that was with the new meters. All of a sudden, my bill jumped to 2 units per month, or 51 gallons per day, even though I do not use any more water now than I did prior to the increased usage shown on my bill. I realize the extra unit cost is only $2.21 a month for the water, but the city does have 80,000 meters in service. That amounts to almost $177,000 a year if they do that same thing to everybody else. I would prefer that a water meter that measures gallons used instead of units used, so I can see my exact usage. Gas stations charge by the gallon, but not by the unit, so the customer knows exactly what they're buying. If the city needs to upgrade or expand their facilities due to an increasing population, then the developers and the new people coming into town should pay for it. You keep approving new developments, but we don't have water to even take care of the people that are here already. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Susie Schroyer. I live at 276 North El Camino Real. And I live in the mobile home park. So I'm speaking for myself and I would venture for most of my neighbors who also live in mobile home parks. Manufactured homes are already paying a higher water rate, compliments of our former council majority, Mr. Kern, Mr. Feline, and Mr. Feller. Single-family homes pay $2.21 for up to 13 units. 55-plus mobile home parks pay $221, but only get up to 7 units. That's a difference of 6 units. In 55-plus parks, there are at most only 2 persons using the infrastructures. In single-family homes, there can be as many as 8 or more using the infrastructures. I'd like for the new council majority to take those points into consideration. We seniors, as mentioned already before, will not enjoy a Social Security increase this year. Our infrastructures, our homes, are also getting older and constantly need repairs and infrastructure updates. So when you get to the point of deciding whether to raise the water rates or not, I'd like for you to take into consideration and vote not across the board for the water increase for us seniors, because we already are paying a lot more money than the rest of the city. Thank you very much for your time.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council. Thank you for the brief. I understand it better now than I did before, better than the mailer. For the record, my name's Ty Wharton. I've lived in Oceanside for 20 years. I live on Arroyo Avenue, and I'm not representing any organization. In the interest of transparency and to avoid a potential future litigation for possible violations of California Proposition 218, the City Council should delay voting on the rate increase until ratepayers are confident that the following Proposition 218 requirements are being met. Number 1, revenues derived from the fee or charges shall not exceed the funds required to provide the property-related service. And number 2, revenues derived from the fee or charge shall not be used for any purpose other than for which the fee or charge was imposed. This past April, residents of San Juan Capistrano won a lawsuit against the city there over water rates that violated Proposition 218. Residents of Yorba Linda are currently in a similar legal battle with the city, and given the documents presented by the taxpayer organization there, they're likely to win as well. Before the City Council passes this rate increase, the ratepayers deserve to know what budget cuts, if any, the department has made to reduce the operating costs, and to know that the money collected is being used efficiently. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. My name is Joe Caputo. I've been a resident here in Oceanside off and on. I'm on active duty in the Marine Corps. I don't originally hail from Oceanside or California for that matter. In fact, I'm originally from Rio Rancho, New Mexico. It's just outside of Albuquerque, and so water restrictions and conservation, it's nothing new to me or my family. We just grew up knowing that we really have to conserve water because we live in the desert. And that being said, you know, just like the previous gentleman up here, received a mailer, and you know, like the first guy, I'm not gonna be as passionate about it, but I do appreciate the education on it, and I realize that it is necessary to take into consideration you know, the future of the infrastructure as well as protecting what we have. But I did find it frustrating when I received this mailer and I see that the primary driver of the recommended water rate adjustments is the ongoing drought and change conservation habits. Whenever I first read that, I did get pretty frustrated, simply based on the fact, like the first gentleman was able to articulate, that why are we getting penalized for doing our part and conserving, so on and so forth. You know, I look around my neighborhood, you know, despite the homeowners association fees that we pay, you know, as far as maintaining the, I guess, our curb appeal and things of that nature. You know, I see my neighbors, they're yanking out their lawns, they're putting in like desert landscape, you know, things of that nature. And then I get something like this, and I'm like, wow, not only are we really changing how we're living our lives, but we're also paying more for it. I understand it might be a necessary evil, but definitely not ready to accept it. So I just wanted to voice my opinion and take the opportunity. It's my first time in a city council chamber, so I appreciate your time, but definitely opposed to a water rate increase. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next four speakers are Nancy White, Victor Roy, Hilda Gastelum, and Chris Fulmer.
There's two podiums, either one.
Okay, I can speak first. That's okay.
Yes.
My name is Chris Fulmer, 2879 Columbia Drive, Oceanside. Glad to be a city resident since 1987. But in that time, I've seen my rates, inflation adjusted, rise dramatically. When I first moved here in 1987, my sewer, water, and waste disposal was about $35 a month, which translates to $75 today. The equivalent now, using less water, by the way, is running around $110. Dramatic increase, $75 to $110 in inflation-adjusted dollars. Why? You state 18.9 friggin' % at one time. I don't think the people out there know that. I didn't know that from reading this. I read it 10 times. I don't see how this council and our honorable mayor can vote tonight to approve this when most of the people out there think it's some smaller amount based upon this fully inadequate thing you guys sent out. The biggest number here is 7.5. You have to really dig into it to figure the rest out. I got it from the newspaper before I came in here, and that said 18.5, and it comes out 18.9 plus 3% for the wastewater. People don't know this. This place isn't full. They'd be full if people understood the impact of this tremendous increase. And not only a tremendous increase, but one, as other people have stated, that I don't believe is supported. I think you guys are paid too much. Sorry to say. I spent 10 years, the last 10 years of my career, getting flat, zero, and negative raises. Did anybody in the city do that? I sort of doubt it. I don't think so. I think you're used to living off us taxpayers and getting your money from us in the form of rate increases. It isn't right. To give you an idea about what I do, I've got a weather-based water controller for irrigation. I got a bucket in my shower, and I store water from the rain come out of my gutters. And I use that in the yard. And I dropped my use considerably. You say you're going to keep 17%. You're anticipating 17% into the future because people are going to be able to maintain this kind of a lifestyle. I don't believe it. I don't think 17% is going to be the number. I think it's going to be considerably less than that because people can't live like this forever. It's unrealistic. So that's why I'm here. I'm thinking about the retired people. They can't afford $20 a month, $10 a month, whatever it is. And you got to communicate this better. You can't do this at, 18.9% and 3%, and it comes out sounding way lower. People don't understand. So thanks a lot. Thanks for your time. And by the way, you all got an email from me, and you should have on record a written signed copy.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening. As a longtime resident and taxpayer of Oceanside, I, Nancy White, would like it to be known that I protest the water rate increase. I consider Oceanside as a diamond in the rough, if you will, with so many attributes and too many to mention here and now. However, based on experience, too many cities, due to poor management, constant increases as we have today, fees, surcharges, and taxes, have chased away the very people who have over the years added stability, pride, and loyalty to the city. Oceanside this moment is at the crossroad of making similar decision. The question that begs to be asked, do you desire to keep the very people who have made Oceanside great, and do you want to have as many cities, what I call fly-by-night residents, here today, gone tomorrow, or do you want to keep the great Oceanside as it is, as a beacon and a light? The last time I spoke, I pleaded with the council members to be creative in how and to be creative in how and what you impose on the residents. This obviously fell on deaf ears, although you claim, based on the insert that we received, that you feel justified for the increases. I too can give you an example. I could tell you that I had to rob a bank down here at the corner, just kidding, and for good reasons, but you know and I know that my justifications will be wrong. So it is with yours. Speaking of justifications, nowhere does it state in here that the reason for the tier system. Again, it was mentioned, Prop 218 states it's wrong. Nowhere does it state that what amount the MWD, the Metropolitan Water District, the San Diego Water District is imposing for the water increases. And also, as was mentioned, the 7.5 increase. I'm going to jump ahead of my notes because I'm not going to finish. I might add to the residents that are here and those that are listening that is being televised, that the council members are people elected. They are here to serve the people of Oceanside. So observe how each one of them votes tonight. And if they hear us or have compassion, as was mentioned, on the seniors, the low-income families that are struggling, jobless, renters, military families, let it be known here and now that you too will have a vote and a voice upon their reelection. Thank you.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Mayor Wood, and Council Members Kern, Sanchez, Lowry, and Feller. Victor Roy, I'm a homeowner, and Rancho San Luis right here in Oceanside. First question I have is, when was the last time that the water ratepayers in Oceanside received a rate cut? People who have been saving water and doing the right thing are still going to see an increase in their water rates, and I don't think that is right. The city needs a more creative rate structure that rewards such people and punishes those who waste water. I call upon the council tonight to postpone the rate hikes because, first, heavy El Nino rains are predicted for this winter. Second, in turn, with the heavy El Nino rains, the governor certainly will not extend his conservation mandate past February. And third, the city of San Diego is possibly receiving a $220 million payment from the Metropolitan Water District for past illegal charges. So how many millions of dollars are we going to receive along those same lines of the Metropolitan Water District and the illegal charges? Or has our city not pursued this? And if not, why not? I haven't heard anything tonight about that. So please, somebody explain that, Jason or anybody on the council, if you know about us challenging the Metropolitan Water District, since we do buy their service, where are our millions going to come in and help the seniors and the low-income people? There are too many variables out there to commit to such a high water rate increase right now, so let's explore whether our city needs a new rate structure that more aggressively rewards conservation. It is very difficult for our ratepayers who comply year after year with your commands to save, only to turn around and be hit with increase after increase after increase. I also want to thank the council majority for voting to oppose the Gregory Canyon landfill proposed project. I wasn't here for that last council meeting. And that's in order to preserve and protect the San Luis Rey River and aquifer, the waters which our city relies on for 15% or more annually as part of our water supply. Thank you.
Oh, Hilda, it's your turn to speak, Hilda.
Good evening, Council. How are you?
Mike, thank you.
I am not going to give you a speech. You're all, as I can see, business people, well prepared. I'm an economist myself, and I'm not going to give you a lecture about economics. I am here representing mainly myself and all those people of Oceanside that cannot come or maybe are ignorant of what's coming to them. I'd like to ask you to oppose of this rate. Where do you want to get to? Look at that increase chart that you have right there. I moved to this place hoping that this would be my retirement place. The experience that I have had in the past 3 years with the water department, it's like dealing with a socialist or a communist country. I've been in those communist countries for many, many years of my life, and I studied them as an economist. I here ask you to please have some respect for the elderly, for the handicapped, for the citizens that are poor and cannot afford these kind of rates. I come from Marin County, where the water, it's not even as high, supposedly be the most expensive water in the country, and yours are even higher. I would like to ask you to please consider an evaluation of the rates on how the water department, the city of Oceanside, is managing our water and charging us for rates that are incredibly high. And I many times question them. What about the water that I use to drink, the water that I use for my garden? They don't take that into consideration. I save water like nobody else because in Marin County we've been trained to save water for the past 30 years. Every increase that we have never comes down, even though we have water, enough supply to sell it to the Southern California cities. Same thing, you guys are doing the same thing. Are you managing the water department? Have you done an audit to find out where the funds are going? It is my understanding that there is a lot of wasteful money. Why don't you do some cuts instead of increasing and getting it from us, the citizen, who have a very small, sometimes no increment on salaries? I would propose to you, and I beg you, to do an audit to the city of Oceanside Water Department and find out where the money is and where is it going. As the gentleman explained, a calendar, and you spend $100,000, I'm sure, on mailing and producing the calendar. There are better things to use the money for. Another thing you can do is maybe take a cut and eat less, maybe eat less food. I'm not kidding. Eat less food. You don't need that much money, right? We live with little money. If you are retired and you didn't work for the city or the government, you don't have a wonderful Social Security savings. Thank you for listening to me. I appreciate it. I noticed that you didn't care. Listening to some of the people, like the elderly men, I do see that, and I really resent it. Some of you were laughing, and that's not very nice. Thank you.
Our next speakers are Mike Milano, Diane Nygaard, and Francis Kazerski. And then after Francis speaks, anyone else is welcome to speak as well.
Good evening. I'm Mike Milano. I live at 462 Wilshire.
and we farm in South Morro Hills. For me, over the short term, there's really not much you can do other than raise the rate. And because of this cutback, your income is going down. And if you don't raise the rate, the water department's going to go bankrupt, and that's just not acceptable. So I know it's difficult, but I believe that that's what has to happen. Now, do I like it? No, I don't like it, but I like a bankrupt water department even less. So I don't see how else we can do it. Also, for me, I'm talking about agriculture. The only question for me is, are the way these rate increases have been done, is it fair? I can't really answer that, but it looks that way to me. So I just have to say that I'm in favor of the rate increase to keep the water department solvent. I hate to say that, but that's the way I feel. Now, relative to the agriculture, all I'm asking is that you keep the rate as low as you can. And if we're going to encourage ag tourism, you need to keep agriculture viable, and you have to have water to do that. Now, over the long run, I believe that, just like Jason said, there's all these projects. There's a couple more projects that he didn't mention that I believe should be done. One of them is that we should resurrect the Gopher Canyon Dam and look into building that. That way we can buy water at a reduced rate during high flow rates and store it. That would save money. And the other big thing for me is we've got to be more aggressive and resist these very, very costly environmental projects that go directly to the rate that we're paying. And it's always hidden, but it's a gigantic cost, and I believe that we need to be more proactive on that. So that's all I have to say, and thank you very much. And if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Diane Nygaard, Nighthawk Way in Oceanside. You didn't like where that was?
I think we're... They don't want to hear you. They don't want to hear you. He's from Carlsbad.
A few years ago, our water and sewer system were in terrible condition from many years of deferred maintenance, and I certainly appreciate very much that we now have updated master plans, and we are working forward in a methodical way to try to fix that long-term deferred maintenance, because the consequence was frequent, very damaging sewer spills as well as water line breaks that affect all of our health and certainly affected our creeks, because many of those sewer lines are along the creeks. So we are on a path to do that, and of course those things cost money. Drought is a new reality for us here in Southern California. We might like to think that these conservation measures are temporary. I don't believe that. I think it really is a new reality. We need to all come up with other ways to address that and continue to reduce our water use, and to recognize that water is a priceless commodity, and unfortunately the price of that priceless commodity is only likely to go up over time. So with all of that said, we're all going to have to pay our fair share for the increase. As a resident, I don't like doing that, but we all are going to have to pay our fair share. I think as part of doing that, we need to make sure that we balance these costs. And there's a couple of things that we can do to do that. We make sure that our building code permit requirements for new construction are really building in the best water-saving, low-energy landscaping, those things that really can be done, and those are things that you can control. The penalties for violation and waste need to be stringently enforced. We all see in our neighborhoods water running down the gutters every day. That should not be happening. So increase the penalties, really make that seriously. That helps offset it. Last month, you took action to adjust the impact fees for new development. That was an important step forward. We need to continue on that path to make sure that development pays its fair share so that we residents are only paying our fair share. If you do all of those things, we'll do all of our things as well. Thank you.
Hello, Mayor Wood and members of the City Council. I am an Oceanside resident, which is a matter of public record. I've been a resident since 1991. I left a letter with the city clerk a while ago, and I'd like him to have that letter published or emailed or Xeroxed so that you could take a look at it. I'm really a strong advocate of a desalinization plant. Recently, I was watching IBA News out of Israel. IBA News stands for Israel Broadcasting Authority, and they had a water consultant, and he stated that the politicians in California knew for a long time a drought was coming, and they really didn't plan for the drought. So this is from a consultant for the water industry of Israel. If you take a look at many of the Arab Emirate states, Qatar, Abu Dhabi, all along the coast of the Persian Gulf states, they have what's called desalinization plants, and that's to bring water to these very arid lands. In addition to that, Israel has a water shortage. They get water from the Sea of Galilee. It goes down through the Jordan River and eventually to the Dead Sea, but they're building desalinization plants. And I really believe with all my heart, since Carlsbad, your sister city, has already got one online, so to speak. It should be up and ready pretty soon. I really feel that Oceanside has a opportunity to have its own desalinization plant, and that way you could compete with this water crisis that we have. And one last thing I wanted to say is, with Oceanside conserving water, 26% on an average, I do think it's unfair if you impose a 19% increase, especially on those with fixed incomes, the elderly, and the disabled. OCTD, the North County Transit District, they give disabled people a discount to ride a bus. I think disabled people on a fixed income should be given a break, as well as elderly people on a fixed income. So that's something that was not brought up at the Utilities Commission. That I didn't hear it yesterday. I was at the Utilities Commission that Jimmy Knott was presiding over. I saw Esther Sanchez there, but I didn't hear many advocates for the elderly, people of Social Security, or those that are disabled. So anyway, I just say plan for the future and get a desalinization plant going. Okay? Thank you.
Any of the members of the public wishing to speak on this specific item who haven't come forward yet may come forward to speak.
Oh, I know we're all tired. Good evening. Millie Talaferri, Trico Mobile Estates. I fill 5 barrels of rainwater every time it rains. I bucket, shower, and bath water to my garden. I was hoping that Oregon, Washington, even Canada, they have so much water that somehow, I was hoping for a pipeline, that somehow we could make some connection, because I hate using our seawater. The last thing I want to mention is, can we really trust the Metropolitan Water District? The hair on the back of my neck rises. And I wouldn't want anyone to say, gee, can we trust our Oceanside Council? I love you all.
Good evening, Council, Mayor, City Manager, City Attorney. Zach? Sorry I didn't fill out your card, Zach.
That's okay.
My name's Steve Jepson, 3381 Corsica Way, Oceanside. It's a very painful issue to have the council take up. Jason, save the best for last. Maybe a historic increase for the city of Oceanside, but a lot of good has happened here thanks to Jason's participation. And I want to thank him. He's the creative force and leadership behind many of those things that are going to serve the city for a long time to come after he leaves. Thank you, Jason. I want to congratulate the residents. 27% reduction in water is just unbelievable. And on the face of that, it would seem like we're punishing those residents for saving water with the rate increase, because we just take the total cost of providing water and divide it by the units of water that we have. It's pretty easy math. But I know that a lot more goes into this, and I've examined this in some detail. And I'm here to tell you that I'm supportive of staff's position. But there is a lot of confusion out there. A lot of my neighbors, a lot of people I know have asked me the same thing. If I conserve water, will my rates go up? Well, unfortunately, the comparison that Jason had to do for Proposition 218 required him to provide a comparison between units now and units in the future. If you use less water, your rates will not be as high as people who use more water. And I think Jason showed us a slide, and perhaps he put it back up in his response, that showed what those actual increases would be. They were not that significant, and I think people are confused by that, and people that I've talked to have. I do not want to rush through this, but apparently I'm going to have to. Jimmy? I have some recommendations for you and some further consideration of this. I don't know if it's possible to delay action and come back and address this in 2 weeks. The city attorney, city manager can probably address that, but there needs to be some clarification. It'd be nice if we could look at a larger window for rate increases, both the time before the rate increase and the time after, so we can get kind of a normalization of what's happened historically. I'm still a little confused by the 7.5% increase in the budget for water. I think that's included in the 18.9%, but I'm not sure. It'd be nice to know what those things are. The longer term impact, if I just have a couple more seconds, the longer impact of rate increases where we've offset capital, the $2 million, you showed a slide that said 5.8. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but what are the longer impacts of that? Is it a greater rate increase later? Are we going to suffer by not doing these capital improvements? The strategic plan, I looked at that. It's been some time since we've done one, not 5 years, but a lot has changed. A lot has changed for the community with regard to the strategic plan, both for water and sewer. It'd be good to go back and look at those. The tiered system that was brought up for water billings, I think that's a good thing, but I guess, the flower grower, he had indicated that it's tough on him. The balance between residential use and commercial and business interest, we're trying to encourage ag, we're trying to encourage job growth. Go back and take a look at the tiered system and see if there isn't perhaps some other way that's more equitable. And then I do think that utility budget should stand the same scrutiny as the general fund budget. A lot of times we get in a hurry with regard to the general fund budget. We rush through that. I think those things could be scrubbed. But thank you for your service. You've got a tough decision tonight, a painful one, maybe not a tough one, because I don't think you're left with much choice but to go ahead and approve these rate increases. Thank you for your service. This is where you earn all that high pay you get for being on the city council and being the mayor. Thank you for your time. Appreciate addressing the issue.
Any other members of the public wishing to speak on this specific item may come forward at this time.
Yeah, hi, I'm Gary Craig. I'm a new resident from Northern California. Very familiar with the drought situation is in Northern California and the conservation efforts that's going on there. I come down here and find out there is actually more of abundance of water in storage and reserve than we have up north. I also find that Oceanside, being a place that I'm retiring because it was most cost effective, I'm surrounded by seniors and people that come here because of all the San Diego counties, this is the only affordable place to come. And then we're hit with this increase. And I understand that there may be infrastructure issues. I got here a little bit late, but needless to say, I still think that there is cuts to do. This gentleman right here mentioned the calendars. I know, being around government, there is always some type of waste, and it's easier to not cut and to raise rates than it is to really look at the hard issues and let people go. We have electronics now. We're able to read the meters electronically. We don't need the people we used to do. And we have a basic need for water and sewer. It's not like we're doing a new building or putting in a new park. This is a survival issue that's affecting everybody. And the issues that have been spoken with tonight with all these compassionate people, some of them maybe not articulate like I would be, but I understand their needs. And I am going to be able to bring this, all the notes, all the information that I acquired tonight, to a news organization and let them decide and look into some of the issues that's going on here. Being a new resident, I see the governor coming down here, what was it, about a month ago, and I knew once he came down, he was going to try to raise rates. It's one of those things that, how can I say it? We do the best we can for conservation. I'm saving water in barrels. I'm actually flushing the toilet less than I used to, and we already have low-flow toilets that barely work right, and you got to flush them twice, so it uses more water. So this is an issue that Oceanside, amongst all the different counties, are one that really should look at the cost and keeping people able to survive on the bare essentials that they need from day to day. And if there is a raise that takes place, I promise you that this isn't going to be the end of the rage. And it's not just me, it's all my neighbors. There's a lot of people that couldn't be here tonight, and it's a shame they're not. A lot of them have just given up. And when we've given up on our government, my God, we're a third world country.
Any other members of the public wishing to speak on this item may come forward this time. Mayor Wood, your mic.
Sorry. Close the public hearing. Come back to the council. Before I go to them, I want to have him respond to any of the questions or us.
Thank you, Your Honor, and council members. We have quite a few items. I'll try to address as many as I possibly can. I know I won't get them all, but the first thing I want to do is I want to get the slide back up that shows what the impacts are financially, so that we can take a look at that real quick and reiterate what it is, you know, that is the true impact financially for those folks who are conserving, you know, per the regulations. So if you see here, you know, one of the things, you know, for the utility and what we're trying to do, it's not an increase in our budget. It is to maintain our budget. We have a fixed revenue, fixed expenses that we need to cover with the revenues. And when we don't receive the appropriate amount of revenue from sales, then we don't have enough money to operate. So this indicates our net neutral. There's a small $2.68 increase per month for those people that conserve, and we expect the people to conserve. This is really what we're seeing. We're seeing a change in the lifestyle and the way people you know, live in Southern California. They've done an excellent job, in complying with the regulations, and so this is what we see as our baseline moving forward. So it's not an increase in our budget, it's simply maintaining our revenues at the levels necessary to cover our fixed costs. Okay, and then I'd like to try to get through some of these other items as quick as I can. One of the items that came up several times was the San Diego County Water Authority lawsuit against Metropolitan Water District. They did have of course it's going to go through appeal, but we did have a favorable ruling and a large chunk of money for the San Diego region. Our number that we potentially would see, and this is several years down the road after several appeals, is in the range of $8 million. That would come back to our fund and be able to cover our capital expenditures, and like I said, it's several years out, so there's no impact or no benefit to that currently. The enterprise fund, with respect to oversight and care, we run all of our budgets through the two different boards before they come to council. So we have a subcommittee, a budget subcommittee, that reviews our annual budgets and what we bring forward. Then that budget committee makes a recommendation to our utilities commission, and then they review it also in great detail, and then it comes forward to the commission or to the council. So it's been reviewed and looked through and scrutinized by two different citizen advisory committees before it gets to the council. The request or discussion about the units on our bills, we have recently implemented the addition to listing how many gallons each customer uses on their bill. So that's a recent change that hopefully people are seeing and taking advantage of that, so they can understand how much they're actually using. The other issue I believe was discussed was the replacement of the meter. That's part of our normal meter in change out process. We have meters that are much older. As they get older, like any piece of equipment, the accuracy of them begins to decrease, and so putting in a new meter will increase the accuracy, and so the gentleman saw an increase in his bill but was not using any more water than he had. That's part of the inaccuracies you have with older equipment that we routinely increase or replace. The discussion with the calendar. The calendar, it was a fiscal year calendar. It was put out. The intent for the calendar was to provide a consumer confidence report, which is our annual report that's required to be distributed to all of our ratepayers and citizens that drink and utilize and consume our water. We have changed that policy, and we now provide an online. We put the consumer confidence report online, so we do not spend the money for the new calendar, the fiscal calendar. So we definitely looked at that and made a decision that it was better to put it online where people can go look at it. They don't have to print it. If they want to print it, they can, but it saves us quite a bit of money from sending out the calendar.
Jason, was that a grant? I had understood that was a grant.
That is correct. I believe the first year that we did that, it was paid for through a grant. There's discussion on the impact fees that allows for our developers to pay their fair share. We brought those forward earlier this year in 2015, and those were approved, so our developers are paying their fair share, and so we were pleased to get that through the council. What's this here? Yeah, there's a couple questions on low income. It's a Prop 218 issue. The Aqua is looking at proposing some amendments to allow for discounts, but until those are vetted through, we unfortunately are unable to do anything with respect to low income. Very interesting, one of the last few gentlemen, the desal project, and that's one of the big projects that we're looking at and working on and have been for several years. Things that we do in Oceanside and as part of what the council has set for the goal to be water independent as much as possible, and 50% was the target for the year 2030. We have been forging forward with several of these studies and projects that allow us to get closer to that target. And desal is one of the items that we have been looking at, and at this point it's looking very favorable. It's a large cost, and these rates are what are necessary to continue that endeavor to construct and build those facilities. There was discussion about efficiency within the department. We are just finishing an efficiency study. I know we are running very lean in our department. That's part of what I take pride in is we have excellent employees. They work very hard, and a lot of them are actually doing two jobs because we have positions that we have not filled. And we're looking at future savings and some of the things that we're doing with respect to AMI and AMR, which is advanced meter reading or advanced meter infrastructure. It allows for us to, instead of having the employees out taking meter reads, we will get them automatically through radio transmission, so we can focus on more infrastructure, type repairs. We have a SCADA upgrade that is going to increase our efficiency within our facilities, not only at the plants, but out in the distribution system. We are sharing staff. We have two water plants, two wastewater plants. We share staff between those plants because the certifications that's required to operate are very similar. So we're seeing some savings there. And then moving forward, one of the big things that council has approved last year was the decommissioning of La Salina, and we will see a reduction in some staffing as that moves forward. And we're going to consolidate all of our wastewater treatment at one facility at the San Luis Rey plant, and that we will see some efficiencies in the economy of scale by doing so. So a lot of improvements, a lot of good things that we're doing, but in order to continue to do those things, we need to stay whole as a utility and continue with the projects that we have on tap. To the final item is the items that Mr. Jepson brought forward. With respect to the multi-year window and the rate increase, the one thing that we've seen when the emergency regulations came out in April, when they started talking about them, we started to see a significant reduction right then. And then by the time we hit June, we were already exceeding our requirements. So the impacts and the regulations that came down from the state were immediate, and our revenue loss was immediate. So to wait and try to figure out, if there's what it looks like on either side of that, it would put us in further financial disarray. So on top of that, with the governor's action on Friday with the bill to extend, it is in the water industry, it appears that no matter what happens with El Nino, that the state and the governor are intending on extending the regulations, and they're looking at putting together long-term regulations that will require additional conservation, and that's where we see this long-term conservation continuing. One of the questions identify, we're cutting back $2 million on our capital program for the water department to help with the rates impact to the customers. And the question was, how do we rebound from that? One of the things that we're doing is we're repaying the debt so the sewer fund is repaying the debt to the water fund. That money will go back into directly into the capital program, so it's an immediate influx of the funds, so that'll help for this next fiscal year. And then moving forward, we'll continue to ramp back up as we have in the past, and it will get back up to the current levels that we need to operate at. The strategic plan, we are just finishing the master plans for all three. We have three of them. It's a water, wastewater, and a recycled water master plan. We did a presentation yesterday to our commission, and they will be presented with the actual documents in December for vote in January, and then it'll come to council for final adoption. So we have looked at what new conditions that and where we're at today with our conservation levels and what our sales and our forecasts are. The master plans really identify what is necessary for the capital. The capital program is a big driver in the master plans and what it takes to continue to maintain our system. We have a very large system when you look at what infrastructure assets we have. I believe we're probably second or third largest in San Diego County. So very, very large system, and it requires a lot of upkeep and maintenance. I think I've addressed a good portion of them, so hopefully that covers a lot. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Go back to the council. Councilman Kern, please.
Thank you. It is painful, and we're going to have to do this. But a couple of things I wanted to explain. Mr. Kukowski left. The total settlement for that MWD lawsuit is going to be about $2 billion over a period of about 20 years. But Director Daffern really kind of alluded to it. It's going to be at least 5 or 6 years before it winds its way through the system. It'll end up at the state Supreme Court. We won at the trial level. It'll go on appeal. But I feel really confident. I was on the Water Authority when working through that, and all our information was that we were absolutely right. And this has to do with the wheeling rates for the water that the Water Authority actually went out and invested in the Colorado and the Imperial Valley. So we had to use MWD's infrastructure to get that water here, and they overcharge us for the wheeling rates, the rate to move the water. So that's what we're trying to recover from them. Eventually we will recover it from them. The 218 question, yeah, I am a member of Aqua, and they're trying to bring that forward, but that's going to have to be a legislative fix. That can't be something done at the local level. Prop 218 was voted on by the voters of California, and they set that structure up. So that cannot be changed without probably another vote of the people. Now, the legislature may be able to tweak some of it, but for the most part, that's what happens. And I know a gentleman mentioned about a 218 challenge in San Juan Capistrano. That challenge was to a punishing rate at that higher tier of $9.18 per unit. Prop 218 says you cannot charge more than it costs to deliver the system, the commodity. So they lost that one. And so the idea that, what we're trying to do is stay within the rules and actually only charge what it costs us to provide that service to you. We're not making any profit off of this charge. So the idea that we will stay within, we have to stay within the rules. One of the things that we talked about is the desal. Because of the governor's mandate of that 20% reduction, when they bring the desal online, it'll probably be, I don't know, the end of next week, first of next, we'll probably find out. Within the next 2 weeks, the Poseidon plant will be up and operational. 50 million gallons of water a day. 7 to 8% of the usage in San Diego County. That plant would supply all the water to Oceanside and Carlsbad. But we can't count it because the governor's mandate still is taking effect. And the governor's mandate goes through October. He's already changed the mandate till October of next year. I think there's something that we probably can do as the water authority to soothe him, to say not one size fits all. How many people think there's a water shortage in San Diego County? There's not a water shortage. We are actually a year and a half ahead of filling the San Vicente Reservoir dam raise in the middle of a drought. And that 50 million gallons a day that we're going to get from Poseidon is probably going to go to fill up the dam quicker. So we're going to be putting that 50 million gallons a day in storage. But I've got to warn you, though, I don't know if you want to buy that water. That water is going to be about $2,300 an acre foot. So if we translate that to our cost, that's probably about $5.50 per unit, almost double what our cost for water is. Now, everybody's shaking their heads and say this is a terrible thing. When we started the desal plant, our desal plant, the RO plant in the valley, the cost for water from Metropolitan was $400 an acre foot. Our cost to do the desal was $800 an acre foot. That is our cheapest water now, because the council back in the late 80s and early 90s invested in that plant. So the idea that the good thing about the desal plant in Carlsbad is that that's a steady cost. The only thing that's going to go up on that is whatever the electricity costs are, but they'll be gaining efficiency over a period of time. The way Metropolitan is raising their rates, those numbers will probably cross about 2022, 2023, that the Metropolitan water will be at or above what the desal costs, if you just do a regression analysis of what their costs are. So the idea that our conservation mandates are going to stay in place, and we don't need them. But the governor put those in place. And so I got to commend the people of Oceanside. I think Mr. Jepson kind of hit it on the head, is that the people really did conserve water. But we do have all these fixed costs. And I always kind of like to tell people it's like having a car sitting in your driveway. And even though you don't have put any miles on it, you still have insurance, you still have maintenance costs, you still have things that you have to pay, and even though you're not getting any usage out of that car. So, you know, it is painful, and I think, you know, we're going to have to continue to adhere to the governor's mandate until something changes. And I think we really need to go forward, and we talk about the agricultural rate. We're working as hard as we can to get recycled water out to those agricultural areas that can use the water. Now, you can only use, you know, Mr. Milano could probably use recycled water because he grows flowers, and you don't eat flowers. You can't put recycled water on avocados because two things. The salts are too high, and plus the fact you eat avocados, so you can't use recycled water on avocados. You can't use them on crops that, edible crops. You can only use them on ornamentals. So, but we're trying to do that. We're trying to put it at the Center City Golf Course. You know, those usage for recycled water, and hopefully we'll get it out to El Corazon. But the idea that, we're investing quite a bit of money and time and effort to be 50% water independent, which is what this council goal was set out about 3 or 4 years ago. But it's not going to be cheap, and it's not going to be easy. But at the end of the day, it's going to be about water reliability. I had a meeting with Genentech and Assemblymember Chavez up in City Hall about 3 weeks ago. That Genentech was thinking about not doing a $250 million expansion to their facility because their headquarters in Switzerland kept hearing about how terrible the water shortage is in California. We brought the Dennis Cushman, the assistant director of the Water Authority, up and explained to Genentech that there is no water shortage, that there is reliable water in San Diego County, because we went through this in 1991. And the San Diego Water Authority at that time said, we need to invest. Never again, where 95% of our water was coming from Metropolitan. So they invested in the IID water transfers. You know, the desal plants coming online. But things aren't cheap. And so I feel bad. You know, I wish I could sit up here and say that we can do these things, but we can't. But we have to pay the bills, because I don't know if you can put that slide back up about what pass-through is, but we have to pay the bills that are sent to us by MWD and the San Diego County Water Authority. If we don't, we will bankrupt the system. We won't bankrupt the department. And in the end, we'll pay more than just paying it now. So I'm going to move the introduction of the ordinance tonight and to follow staff's recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. A second? I will second that for right now. Okay. Mr. Feller, thank you.
Thank you. Jason, could you clarify, the gentleman behind you said, in the blue hat, said the water bill is $180. That is not correct. That's what we send them for all the services, trash, street sweeping.
That sounds more like all of the services included, which would be, you're correct, which would be the trash and street sweeping and whatnot. So our average bill is about $137 for just water, but that's average, or for water and sewer, I'm sorry. So that's an average, everybody's a little different.
And how many meters?
We have right around 44,000 meters total.
Not 80,000?
No.
Okay, so, and is that the number that gets us to 58 million that you suggested earlier?
That would be correct. It'd be 58.5 million on the water fund and 42 million on the wastewater fund, and those two together about 100, right at 100 million.
Okay, so the two combined. Okay, thank you. I think it's a good idea to be working on the Gopher Canyon Dam. I mean, I'm very much would like to see our own water storage. The suggestion about the strategic plan, you and I and the city manager had a discussion about bumping that out a little to give a little more time for the public to have input and understanding on what this the council and the city has to go through to continue to pay these rates, to continue to get water in our community. So I would like to see that happen at the bare minimum, because I think the more public, there's a lot of misinformation tonight that we've heard. I didn't laugh, Linda, when you were speaking. Anyway, there's a lot of misinformation going on here, and it is something that is I know people are emotionally charged on this, and it's understandable, because it's not easy to conserve, save money, and then get that penalty. I think if the water spigot didn't come on and you couldn't flush your toilet, I mean, the infrastructure repair would go down the toilet literally if we don't do this. And that's, you had a page there of a list of things that will transpire if we continue just as we are, no rate raising. And it would be, to me, easy to say no, go back and cut everything. But I know we're not the water authority or the county water authority even. We operate a very lean, hardworking group in the utilities department, and I think it'd be easy to say no, and that's the easy thing to do, but it's not the responsible thing to do. So I'm going to support the motion with the caveat that we start having some community input meetings, something extra to get the public more into this so they understand what actually has to happen. We can't have the pipe of the day breaking like San Diego does. I mean, every time you turn around, there's something broken down there. We can't have that. It just isn't, it won't be good for business, and it won't be good for any of us. And during this working group strategic master plan update, maybe you can see what's out there that people might be able to figure out a way to do a rate that's different for certain types of buildings, certain whether it's the mobile home parks. I think there's probably other ways to skin the cat, but you might find some of that out while we're evaluating this, or actually your successor is evaluating this. So anyway, thank you.
Esther, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What we have before us is basically made up of two components of a recommendation from staff and from the Utilities Commission that we approve the rates that are before us. Two components. First of all, I want to talk about the city. I do believe that we as a city have been working extremely hard to be as innovative as possible to develop alternative sources of water. And in doing so, we needed to talk about capital projects. We needed to decide whether we wanted to continue the project for DSouth, for Oceanside, whether we wanted to break into purple pipes for Oceanside, using recycled water to cut down on costs, and basically continue to ensure that the groundwater that we have in Oceanside will be around for generations to come. In other words, that we're not going to be that we're going to be extremely careful in ensuring that it is constantly being regenerated, in a sense, that we don't do what happened in the Bay Delta, where they pumped and pumped water, where resulting in a sinkage and contamination and all kinds of really horrible issues. In Oceanside, I believe our staff has been very innovative. I believe that the council has taken made some very difficult choices, knowing that we were going to be in this kind of situation. We have something that we cannot control, and that is climate change. I grew up in Oceanside, and I remember the rains during the winter into the spring. I remember as a kid going to school, trying to cross the street, and it was just flooded. I remember those days. These are very difficult times for us as a city, as a state, as a nation, as a world, in having to rethink what we've been doing all these years, deciding how we're going to continue. For us, it's this community, and we know that it is beginning to feel like we're living in like a desert. Now, the governor did come in, visited San Diego. I want to say it was the beginning of the summer, and I believe at that time he seemed impressed that we as a county, as a region, were doing several things to address potential water shortages. He understood very well that we do not currently have a water shortage. And he's really talking about next year and maybe in the next 2 years. So the statement that he made at the time was, okay, I want to be really clear, these conservation efforts, this emergency order is not going to stop in February. This is going to continue. Right now, it's through October. Chances are it may continue. It depends on the state of water in the entire state, whether certain projects are improved, whether we're able to see the benefits of the work that we're doing now in communities all over the state, like Oceanside. Oceanside is very special that we've had, that our water department is publicly owned. In other words, this is owned by the citizens of Oceanside. We're not making a profit off of the citizens of Oceanside. Everything is done with the mind of ensuring that this fund is properly funded for now and for the future. Now, some communities are thinking about going private. I would not want that to happen to Oceanside. I think that what we're doing in Oceanside is, again, very innovative. We've got the very good people in charge, and I believe it's extremely transparent. Private sector would probably not be as transparent. So I am very happy and proud that we have this public resource, this public entity, and that you can go and find out, where is this money going. So, no profits, fully public. The basic question that was asked, and I know it's very difficult to answer, why are water rates going up when we've cut back as a community the use of water between 20 and 25%? And it's very difficult for anyone to really understand that. It is a mandate at the state level that we must conserve, we're talking about storing water for a time when it is going to be even extremely more difficult. There are some issues that were raised by, and I had a chance during the break to talk to a couple of people about the mobile home parks and how they are folded into multifamily, and they believe that they are using much less water in their unit than, say, a typical rental place. And it may be. Going forward, I do want to make sure that people are charged for exactly, as far as we can understand, exactly what is being used. And that is really the goal here, the goal of 218, that no one subsidizes anybody else's use of water. That's 218. That's what the voters decided at the state level. Now, you heard that there are some potential projects or plans that are being looked at to see if there can be a tier for those not able to afford, because water is becoming hugely expensive. Water is a very, very special commodity. It is, someone said diamond in the rough, it is a diamond. And every day that diamond, that water, becomes more expensive. So I do want to make sure that we continue whatever efforts that we're making now, that we only charge people for the water that they use. So I do have some questions about that situation with the mobile home park. So I am asking staff to look into that. Right now, the desal at Carlsbad, with Poseidon, is more expensive. It's the reason why we're trying to do our own desal project and our own, again, to be 50% independent by 2030. I think we're talking about 2025, maybe 2027. So, Jason, you were going to say something.
Yeah, the majority of the work is going to be done, probably finished in that 2025 to 2030 range, but we were going to hit that, the last presentation I did, I think, a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, hit us right on the 2030 mark.
Okay.
For 50%. So we're forging forward very well on that endeavor. So.
And that is going to guarantee that, our rates here, that they are stable. This is a very, very difficult decision tonight. I think the two biggest issues that I saw going into tonight was making sure people understood why we're in this situation, the pass-throughs. Those are bills that we have to pay. We don't pay that, we don't get the water. You don't get the water. That's a direct pass-through. And for Oceanside. The other issue that I heard a couple of people say is the notice issue. People didn't feel that they were properly noticed. This is something that we discussed before. I did talk to the city attorney about this to ensure that that we did provide proper noticing. Councilmember Feller has suggested that we, if this passes tonight, that we continue to do outreach to the community to ensure that people understand what is before us tonight and what we're actually asking people to pay. And I agree with that. I think that the only way that we can do this really is together, because again, this is your utility. This is a utility that belongs to the public, and you should know how it works. You should know if there are any funds that are being misspent. As far as I know, we run a very lean organization. Have done so since the cuts. I don't think we've really changed anything. We still are relying on people who are doing more than one job. So I am going to be supporting this motion. I don't see how I would not be able to. The responses from our director basically are, look, we need to pay these bills, and if we do not pass the city part, we will not be able to do the projects that we're working on that will guarantee our independent sources of water. So, in fact, if we don't do this now, we're looking at a more dire situation later on with even higher costs. So I am going to be supporting it. I do feel that we need to continue to have information sent out to our ratepayers, our public. That information, we should be able to put that information also in the water bills. There was a movie that I remember a line in, and said, tell it to me like I was a 6-year-old. And I think that when we try to explain things to the public, we should not assume anything. Don't assume that, oh yeah, everybody knows that we're working on these really great projects, water recycling, and that we're realizing savings because we decided to make several changes. Even the pumping station at La Salina, let's not assume that people understand, have been paying attention to what we've been paying attention to, so that people really understand what we as a city are doing in terms of ensuring the future of water and the stability of water, and that it'll always be as affordable as possible. And that had been our goal, that water be as affordable as we can make it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Wood. Jason, I've got a couple of questions, just, kind of a black and white questions. So according to state law, there's no way that we can charge a certain group of people a lower rate?
As it is currently today, that's correct.
Okay, so we can't charge people a lower rate just because they are seniors or veterans or limited income or anything else, because that's the state law. So we can't fight the state.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Then we currently do have a desal plant in Oceanside, and it's producing how much of our water right now, just percentage-wise, about?
15%.
So we're getting about 15% of our water from the desal plant, so it's not a new idea when someone says the city of Oceanside should do what Carlsbad is doing, because we've already got it in motion. It's been in play for years.
Correct.
Yeah, and we're trying to, we're in the process of expanding that output so that we will have more of our own homegrown water here.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. And then on this rate sheet that you had up there, the image that was up there before, where it says monthly impact here, $2.68, is that what the average homeowner is going to have in Oceanside to look at as this fearful rate increase that we're looking at, $2.68?
That's what we anticipate the average customer who's conserving per the regulations, they'll see that $2.68 per month increase.
Okay, so plus there'll be $1.75 for the sewer rate increase, so the total amount is $4.43 for the average Oceanside customer using 10 units of water a month?
That would be correct.
So that's 1,000 gallons? How many gallons of water is that? 748 gallons times 10. You do the math.
Yes, 7480.
74,000 gallons of water.
7,480 gallons. Yeah.
748 gallons per unit
times 10. 7,000.
Oh, wait.
Yeah.
Okay.
7,480 gallons.
Okay. I didn't do math in school. Yeah. I just did, algebra. Really bothered me. So I'm concerned that when people got the original materials that were those several pages that you sent out, that some people sent back in case we didn't have it, but it came in with some of the concerns that people had. You put down every possible version that could exist in the city, the size of the pipe, what kind of usage they had, whether it was a commercial use or a residential use or an agricultural use or whatever. So you put all that out there, and that confused people because it didn't say your bill's going to go up $2.68 a month.
Yeah, the intent for the 218 was to provide every increase proposed, and that's what we did.
So we had to do that under state law. We couldn't just say right out of the gate, it's going to cost you $2.68 a month more for your water. We had to go through all that, many pages of material just like this, lots of stuff on it. You can figure it out on your own maybe, but you can't, because you can't tell people what they're going to use as a single family home or as a business, because you don't know what their circumstance is.
That's correct.
Okay. So I want to thank you for presenting it in this easy to read version that, it took a couple weeks to get to this. But I think it's very clear that no matter how many millions of dollars we do as a city in income or expenses, that this is what we're talking about. This is what we're going to approve tonight. There's that other rate, however, for people who don't know or not interested in conserving water, their rates are going to go up. And it's going to be noticeable because their rates are going to go up $12.26 a month. So that's what we're looking at. People who conserve water are going to look at $2.68, and the people who don't care are going to look at $12 or more a month.
That is absolutely correct.
So that's freedom of choice for the consumer to decide which one of those they want to have. That's what it seems like to me. So I thank you for putting this together, and I support the motion. I hope we can call for the question tonight before we fall asleep.
I would like to take that, but I want to say a few words. Thank you for calling for the question. Thank you. I'm sorry. Thank you. Going to great detail tonight. I appreciate that. I'm sorry that more people, we got a lot of emails and et cetera regarding the rate increases. We really did. But generally speaking, we don't get the whole public in here to listen to the details. To details is what counts. I agree with send it out and say your rate leak going to go about 260. But probably not many people would call us and even care about this. But it was confusing on paper because of 218. I understand that. All of you out there, I understand it. I understand your anger. I'm a tier user in the high bracket. My wife saves the shower water and everything else and goes pours it in the yard, but because I have a pool, it either evaporates and I put a cover on it, and I got algae problems, whatever. So I pay more than everybody else, and I think most of the people up here, except Chuck, are just as upset as you about what this is and the rate increase. But like people have said to you and everybody out here on the staff, what are you going to do? If you were in our you were all up here voting, if you voted this down, we'd go bankrupt in our water department and you wouldn't get any water services. We can't do that, and we have to go with you. That's our opinion. You may like it, may not like it. It's a situation where I feel obligated to vote for it under the circumstances. Who do I blame? I blame a little bit the governor on the situation. Mr. Kern eloquently explained it. We don't have a water shortage, but you people out there and at home done a wonderful job conserving water, and your payment for that is a rate increase. I'm sorry about that. That's not right. Some people yelled and screamed. I agree with you. I get a bigger rate increase than you, but you feel sad that when you go to all the trouble to save all that money, you still get a rate increase. We didn't want it. This is a pass-through cost. It's a little bit more than I expected to, but that's the way it is. I'm kind of shameful about having to tell you a rate increase. You may not agree. If you were up there voting and knew all the details as we do, you can probably vote for it. But we understand it. I blame the Metropolitan Water District and their cost overrides for years and years, as you explained it. Multiple $1 million they're going to have to pay back to us when the final court case is resolved. Well, does that mean it's going to come back here to all of us in San Diego County and we're going to make your rates go down? Yeah, depends on how much money we get back. We'll probably do it. This is the most valuable commodity in Southern California, period, water. Now, we talked about the Carlsbad desal going in. We do it ourselves. We're the first city in the county that does it. 15%. We want to move it up to 50%. Your rates will go down. However, it costs a lot of money to increase the process of desal. Plus, I don't know if you know this, we buy acre water foots, if we buy by the acre water. It's about $1,200 per acre, regular rate. And desal is about $2,800, twice the price. So we're going to get more desal, but we're going to pay twice the price to keep water in this area. I'm willing to pay it, but be aware of it. Your rates will probably go up and paying twice the price of water. And that's not us, it's Metropolitan and the San Diego Water Authority. And we're trying to resolve it as best we can. Some of the other costs, we're good neighbors. When I say a good neighbor, we allow the military to hook into our sewer system. We're good people. We let this military in the base hook into our sewer system until they finish theirs. You know, we could say no, but we said yes. I think what we do is we get a lot of input at these council meetings, which you could give us a lot earlier through the website or calling us or whatever you want to do. The city manager looked at all these issues too, the city attorney with the 218. Our former city manager gave us some recommendations as city council, and our new city manager already had those. We looked at all of them. So it's nothing new. We get a lot of complaints, but we don't get a lot of solutions in how we fix the problem. Some of those that you mentioned, young lady, is what we spend money on. When we did that calendar, it was a grant. You know, it's grant. But we have to look at everything on the books that we pay for. We're going to do that. We've been doing that. And as for audits, we do get audits by other people outside every year, and we get the copy of the audits. I think we're doing an okay job. The people out there may not think that. We don't hear from very many people throughout the year unless something comes up like this. I wish you'd call us earlier or contact us earlier. We refer you to Jason or whoever's in the water department to try to answer those petty questions that maybe are bugging you about the cost. I think when you hear all these issues where we ought to and how we have no choice, it's a pass-through cost, I think you more understand the cost that we have to vote on. And I know the seniors and the veterans and the handicapped people out there, we keep in mind all the time, but by law under 218, we can't give you special rates. So we're at a situation. I thank you for letting me explain some of this like everybody else. I apologize for the long time, hours. I appreciate your input. But, you know, I hope we answer things for you. I'm going to go ahead and say, let's vote now and get this over with. Thank you.
Hang on one second, I got to title this.
Sure, yeah.
Great. So you have two ordinances that I need to title. The city clerk has confirmed that there is not a majority protest. Correct. I think somewhere in the neighborhood of 180 or so written protests. So I will go ahead and title these. This is the introduction of an ordinance of the City of Oceanside amending Oceanside City Code Chapter 29 establishing wastewater user rate increases, and the introduction of an ordinance of the City of Oceanside amending Oceanside City Code Chapter 37 establishing water user rate and external water provider charge increases.
Thank you. With that, please vote.
Motion,
Thank you, Glenn.
motion approved, 5-0.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have one more time. We're going to close our meeting in special respect and for all the people that died in Paris and all the injured people. We have to support them mentally, if nothing else, to say sorry, moment of silence for them, and we will change the next scheduled meeting is Wednesday, December the 2nd, Wednesday, 3:30 at this location. If you don't mind standing for a moment of silence for all the people in Paris to support them. Thank you. Thank you very much. Be safe tonight. Thank you. If you have any about this tonight, please call us individual council meeting, the clerk, or the city manager. Okay? Thank you.